Chapter 477. In a dark corner of the woods in the mansion, Xing Yi and Xing Er looked at Xiao Chen's satisfied yet dissatisfied expression, and the corners of their mouths twitched. "Master, you are the dignified ninth uncle. What are you doing now? It's fine if you trespass on private property, but it's fine if you get kicked out. What are you trying to do now? Are you going to be a rapist?" Xing Yi and Xing Er silently closed their eyes. Based on their foresight, Jing Yu was not someone to be trifled with. She would definitely discover Xiao Chen within 15 minutes and throw him out again. Xiao Chen had changed his position countless times and was kicked out of the mansion from countless places by Jing Yu. "Our master is too persistent." Xing Yi sighed from the bottom of his heart. Xing Er was silent. Miss Jing Yu's kick was in the right place. Xing Yi looked at Xiao Chen, who had been thrown out of the window, with a strange expression on his face. Xing Er was silent. "Do you think our master will be able to enter the house today?" Xing Yi asked again. Xing Er was silent. If you continue like this, you won't be able to find a wife in the future, just like our master." Xing Yi's face was completely dark, and he stared at Xing Er with a serious expression. Xing Er's expression became strange when he heard this. He looked at Xing Yi with pity, then lowered his head. "What? You won't let me say it?" Xing Yi stared at Xing Er. Just as Xing Yi was about to start lecturing Xing Er again, a sinister and terrifying voice came from behind. That sinister tone made Xing Yi's body stiffen, and he trembled violently. His legs went weak in an instant, and he turned around in horror. Xiao Chen was standing behind Xing Yi, looking miserable and cold. Master. Xing Yi trembled violently and quickly cupped his hands. "Like this king? This king won't be able to find a wife? HM? Xiao Chen walked closer step by step. Xing Yi's face was covered in cold sweat, and he stepped back and waved his hands. "Your subordinate spoke nonsense." Xing Yi's face was covered in tears, and Xing Er looked at him with a look that said, "You asked for it. I heard that Madame Su has a helper. Why don't this king send you to the palace to serve Madame Su after you clean yourself up?" Xiao Chen stared at Xing Yi indifferently and said, "Master." Xing Yi looked at Xiao Chen with a long face, and he almost knelt down. He scolded himself in his heart for speaking nonsense. He should learn from Xing Er. Silence is gold. Xiao Chen snorted coldly and said, "Go back to the palace and send more people to protect the residents. No one is allowed to enter, especially Hellion Theo." "Yes, your subordinate understands." Xing Yi breathed a sigh of relief and replied respectfully. It was very late at night, and Jing Yu was almost crazy after being tormented by Xiao Chen. She checked every corner of the villa and made sure that all the windows were closed and locked. After waiting for another half an hour, Xiao Chen finally couldn't enter. Jing Yu finally breathed a sigh of relief. He was simply too sticky. Jing Yu lay on the bed with a broken face. Finally, everything was fine. Now, she could have a good night's sleep. Jing Yu quickly took off her clothes and lay on the soft bed. She rolled over comfortably and fell asleep contentedly. The moon was bright, and the surroundings were quiet. Xiao Chen was lying on the roof of the villa with his arms behind his head. Directly below him was Jing Yu's room. Xiao Chen slept quietly on the roof and looked at the bright moon in a daze. Chapter 478. In the courtyard below, a group of black-clothed men stood guard. Xing Yi and Xing Er looked at their master and sighed. The road to chasing a wife was really bumpy. Jing Yu slept until dawn. When she woke up, she opened the door slightly to look around. When she didn't see Xiao Chen's figure, she let out a sigh of relief. If this continued, Jing Yu would go crazy. Jing Yu fell on the sofa and didn't move. Just like that, 2 or 3 days passed. Xiao Chen visited every night. Jing Yu was tormented until she was exhausted. Finally, just as she was about to explode, news came from the Prime Minister's residence. Gui Fei Fu Ruoqing was holding a tea party and invited all the young misses and madams to the palace. Among them, Jing Yu's Prime Minister's residence was the focus of the invitation. It was said that she was also invited. When this news came, Jing Yu, who was originally depressed, became even more depressed. But why did she have to enter the palace again? The tea party was just a pretense. In these few months, Fu Ruoqing and Fei Yaju were locked in battle. It was said that because of concubine Xiang's help, Fu Ruoqing won this time and received many rewards from the emperor. The empress, on the other hand, was reprimanded by the emperor for not seeing the big picture. As for why, Jingyu didn't ask. Jingyu didn't have the slightest interest in the inner palace. Entering the palace on the 15th of the 5th month to enjoy the tea party was originally to invite all the young misses and madams. Unexpectedly, the second prince said that he was interested. This made Fu Ruoqing smile and say that they should use this opportunity to select a consort for the second prince. The second prince and the crown prince still didn't have a consort. This made the emperor very anxious. When these words reached the emperor's ears, he immediately decided that all unmarried women could enter the palace. The imperial city was once again in an uproar. All right, there's no end to this consort selection. In order to show off her status, Jingyu had no choice but to return to the prime minister's residence to dress up. Only then did she take the prime minister's residence's sedan chair to the imperial palace. Having status was not good. Everything had to be considered for the family. Jingyu was 10,000 times unwilling to enter the imperial palace, but she had no choice. Jingyu was dressed in a snow-white robe, giving her the air of a fairy who had descended to the mortal world. Her small face was incomparably pure. Looking at her simple appearance, it made people feel comfortable and had a different kind of feeling. As the granddaughter of the first wife, Jingyu's clothes and jewelry were naturally more dignified. Jingyu's originally tacky clothes had some unnecessary jewelry removed in annoyance. Her complicated hair ornaments were also combed into a simple but elegant bun. She only wore a few hairpins. Her dark purple robe with exquisite totems on it could not be described as not beautiful. Her exquisite makeup, raised eyebrows, and pitch-black eyes seemed to carry an indifferent indifference. However, there was a hint of arrogance and aloofness between her brows. Her arrogant posture was on full display. When she walked out, it could be said that she was worlds apart from Jing Yan. One was delicate and pure, while the other was noble and arrogant. "Oh, long time no see," Jingyu said with a smile when she saw Jing Yan standing cautiously by the side of the carriage. Eldest young Mississippi, Jing Yan lowered her head, not daring to look at Jingyu. She bowed in greeting. Jingyu was stunned. She looked Jing Yan up and down. When did this person become so polite? She actually bowed to her. Moreover, she had a cowering and indifferent appearance. She didn't seem to have bullied her. Could it be that she had received guidance from her mother? Or was she scheming something? Chapter 479. Jingyu looked at Jingyu strangely. She was thinking that she had to be on guard when she entered the palace today. She was still worried about Jingyu. After all, this child had tried to set her up many times in the past. It was really abnormal for her to suddenly change her attitude. Plus, anyway, there was always a pile of things to deal with every time she entered the palace. It was better to stay calm. Jingyu once again entered the palace with an incomparably bitter and complicated mood. When she approached the palace gate, Jingyu unexpectedly saw a person. She was wearing a peach-colored palace dress that was incomparably gorgeous. Her bright and beautiful face was filled with pride. Who else could this person be other than Princess Leong? Fu Ruoqing's younger sister, Fu Leong, had competed with Jingyu in horsemanship. It was said that after that incident, the Grand Tutor was furious. Who asked Princess Leong to lose so much money? It was also after that incident that Princess Leong was grounded and ordered not to provoke Jingyu. After that incident, the matter was left unsettled. Princess Leong obviously saw Jingyu. She glared fiercely at Jingyu and entered the palace with her chin held high. Jingyu grinned. This Princess Leong was still the same. She didn't hate her, but she definitely didn't like her. This time, even Princess Leong had entered the palace. It seemed that the Crown Prince and Xiao Jingran could not choose a consort from these women. The tea party was held in a pavilion in the Imperial Garden. There was a rather large open space around it. The tables and teacups were arranged neatly. When Jingyu arrived, the place was already bustling with noise and excitement. There were quite a lot of beautiful women. Jingyu looked around and indeed saw Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu talking. The two of them obviously saw Jingyu and they cheered and waved for Jingyu to come over. Well done. The last time you stood me up, I haven't seen you for a few days. Tell me, where have you been? Jingyu questioned Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu as soon as she caught them. Her eyes were filled with displeasure. Yeah, please forgive me. Something came up and I couldn't go. Shangguan Linglan quickly grabbed Jingyu's hand and said, Father's old injury has relapsed. I really can't leave the house. I had no choice but to send someone to tell you that I can't go. I also only found out today that Miaoqiu didn't go. That's right. I was locked up by my father as soon as I got home. It's all because I ran out to meet you without permission. And caught me. Yeah, I'm sorry. Lu Miaoqiu said apologetically as she held Jingyu's hand. You too. Jingyu was completely speechless. Why is this so coincidental? Yeah. Lu Miaoqiu blinked and looked at Jingyu. Shangguan Linglan also had a helpless face. He grabbed Jingyu's hand and said, After a while, we will definitely accompany you. There's no need for that. You guys should just stay at home. Jingyu shook her head helplessly. She thought of Xiaochen, that scammer. If these two girls bumped into him, he wouldn't be able to live. Jingyu helplessly held her forehead. She looked at the two and asked, Why are you here? Are you here to choose a concubine? To be precise, we are here to help Miaoqiu. Shangguan Linglan said seriously, I don't want to get married yet. I don't think anyone dares to marry you. Jingyu covered her mouth and laughed. Shangguan Linglan suddenly screamed and wanted to hit Jingyu. You two stop fooling around. The Empress and Imperial concubine will be here in a while. Lu Miaoqiu smiled and looked at Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan who were fooling around. Chapter 480. I won't lower myself to your level. Shangguan Linglan arrogantly raised her chin. Jingyu impolitely rolled her eyes at her. She looked sideways at Lu Miaoqiu and said, Miaoqiu, you want to choose a consort? Marry Xiao Jingran? Do you also like Xiao Jingran? As she said this, Jingyu's expression suddenly became strange. It seemed that Xiao Jingran wanted her to marry him before? Jingyu fiercely shook her body. Lu Miaoqiu smiled and shook her head. I want to be the crown princess. Hiss. Jingyu's eyes widened in shock. This was even more frightening than wanting to marry Xiao Jingran. You like the crown prince? Jingyu looked at Lu Miaoqiu with a strange expression. Thinking carefully, it seemed that these two people didn't have any interactions at all. I don't like him. Lu Miaoqiu shook her head with a serious expression. If you don't like him, then why do you want to marry him? Jingyu was instantly dumbfounded. Shangguan Linglan patted Jingyu's shoulder and said earnestly, Jingyu, not everyone can follow their heart and marry the person they like. Jingyu was silent. She raised her head and looked at Lu Miaoqiu. Lu Miaoqiu's face was delicate and pretty. Although she couldn't be considered a stunning beauty, she was still a rare beauty. She looked weak and helpless, but her heart was more tenacious than anyone else's. Otherwise, how could she endure humiliation at home for so many years? In Jingyu's opinion, if Lu Miaoqiu became the crown princess, she would become the queen of the imperial harem. No one would be able to bully her and she would be able to live a good life in the imperial harem. Miaoqiu, have you really thought it through? Jingyu sighed and looked at Lu Miaoqiu with a burning gaze. I've thought about it. Lu Miaoqiu replied with a smile. Looking at Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan's faces, a faint warmth appeared in her eyes. Originally, she thought that there was no one or anything in the world that she would miss, but unexpectedly, there were still people she wanted to protect. If I become the crown princess, I will be able to help you. Lu Miaoqiu clenched her fists tightly. She wanted to help and protect them. Since you've made up your mind, go ahead and do it. Jingyu smiled and looked at Shangguan Linglan. She smiled and said, We will definitely help you. If anyone dares to snatch your position as the crown princess, we will beat her to death. Yeah. Lu Miaoqiu smiled and her eyes were filled with helplessness. While the three of them were laughing and joking, The empress and noble consort who had been waiting for a long time finally arrived. Fei Yaju's complexion seemed to be much better, and Fu Ruoqing seemed to be showing off that she was favored. The person who followed beside Fu Ruoqing made Jingyu feel a little dazed. Her face was still the same, and her clothes were gorgeous, but there was no longer the naivety between her brows. Her eyes were filled with profoundness, as if she was hiding many things. That hypocritical face made Jingyu lower her eyes. She had changed, and she had changed quite thoroughly. Ning Xiangyuan, who she had thought was very good, had now become the unscrupulous executioner of the harem. After bowing for a while, they sat down. The empress said some ceremonial words and chatted with the madams she was familiar with. Fu Ruoqing interjected from time to time. Looking at them, it looked like they were close and intimate, but who knew how many times they were gritting their teeth in secret. I've long heard that the Prime Minister's eldest granddaughter's engagement was broken off just before the wedding ceremony. Is this true? Fu Ruoqing naturally changed the topic to Jingyu. Chapter 481. Immediately, everyone's eyes fell on Jingyu, who was sitting in the lower seat. Imperial consort, you're truly well informed. It's almost been a month since this incident and you're only bringing it up now? Jingyu's lips curled into a mocking smile as she said, however, the person who gave you the news is really too much. The entire imperial city knows that I'm unwilling to marry, but in your mouth, it becomes the engagement being cancelled. Do you want to see me being cancelled by the 9th emperors and never being able to get married again? Jingyu's words caused Fu Ruoqing's fingers to tighten. Jingyu, your glib tongue hasn't changed at all? Fu Ruoqing smiled insincerely as she mocked Jingyu. Her eyes were filled with coldness. It was clear that Fu Ruoqing was still brooding over the fact that Jingyu had schemed to demote her last time. Now that Jingyu no longer had the protection of the 9th emperors, she still dared to be so arrogant. Jingyu, this consort hasn't seen you in a long time. Come over here. Fei Yaju glanced indifferently at Fu Ruoqing, then smiled intimately at Jingyu. She waved her hand at Jingyu, indicating for her to sit next to her. Imperial consort, Jingyu curtsied from a place far away from Fei Yaju and didn't go over. Jingyu still couldn't get close to Fei Yaju. She could only maintain a distance that was neither too far nor too close, leaving herself some leeway. After all, no one in the imperial harem was a good person. It's been a long time since I've seen you. You looks even more exquisite now. However, the 9th emperors won't take a liking to you. Don't be sad. With your status, I'm afraid that many of the noble young masters in the imperial city will trample over the threshold of your prime minister's residence. Ning Xiangyuan smiled intimately and comforted Jingyu like a sister. You don't have to worry about this, Xiangpin. Everyone knows that the 9 emperors don't like you, so you don't have to drag me into this. As I said earlier, I was the one who broke off the engagement. It's not certain who's the one who doesn't like who. Jingyu smiled and looked at concubine Xiang, saying, looking at concubine Xiang's clothing at first glance, I thought you were a concubine who had been in the palace for a long time. Your complexion really does look a little old. Your Highness, your skin is really well maintained. Jingyu beamed as she looked at Fei Yaju. Jingyu, your mouth is really sweet. Someone come reward her. When Fei Yaju was praised by Jingyu, she immediately beamed with joy. What women couldn't stand the most was being called old. Naturally, she liked being praised the most. Jingyu didn't hesitate to step on Ning Xiangyuan and raise her status as an empress. Even if Ning Xiangyuan wanted to flare up, she couldn't. Was she going to argue? Saying the empress was old? Weren't you looking to die? Fei Yaju's face was also dark. She glared fiercely at Ning Xiangyuan, her eyes full of warning. Jingyu spoke very passionately to the empress and praised her a few more times to make the empress happy. Only then did she calmly return to her seat. At this time, the main characters that had been waiting for a long time finally arrived. The main characters were naturally the Crown Prince Xiao Yuling and the second Prince Xiao Jingren. The Crown Prince was wearing a light yellow brocade robe. His handsome face was slightly pale and it was obvious that he was in a sickly state. Looking at his weak footsteps, It really made people wonder if the crown prince would die in 2 years. On the other hand, Xiao Jingran's footsteps were vigorous. His body was slender and he had a dignified appearance. His resolute face stood next to the crown prince. The contrast between the two was simply too great. The gazes of the women all gathered on Xiao Jingran as expected. Chapter 482. Xiao Yuling was already used to this kind of situation. Xiao Yuling looked around indifferently and was surprised to meet a pair of calm and gentle eyes. The woman didn't seem to think that she would look at her and lowered her head nervously. However, she seemed to feel that this was inappropriate. She raised her head with a red face and smiled at Xiao Yuling. There was no disdain, no worry, no passion in the woman's eyes. She just looked at Xiao Yuling calmly and gently. This made Xiao Yuling feel that she was an ordinary man. Xiao Yuling had an impression of this woman, although it wasn't deep. She seemed to be a close friend of Jing Yu's. She was a concubine's daughter from the Lu family. What was her name again? Xiao Yuling turned her head back with confusion. She went forward and bowed to the empress before slowly sitting down. Because of the arrival of the second prince and the crown prince, the girls below all looked up with fervent gazes. From time to time, they would tidy up their hair and show their most beautiful side, hoping to be noticed. Did the crown prince look over just now? Shangguan Linglan pulled on Jing Yu's sleeve and asked excitedly. Shoo! Jing Yu made a hand gesture to Shangguan Linglan, indicating for Shangguan Linglan to calm down. In her heart, she was full of admiration for Lu Miaoqiu. Although the crown prince was the crown prince, there wasn't a single woman who was willing to marry him sincerely. But one had to know that the crown prince's illness seemed to have spread some strange rumors a long time ago. They said that the crown prince couldn't sleep with others, or that the crown prince was impotent. In any case, the rumors were very unpleasant. Furthermore, the crown prince hadn't had a single concubine in all these years. This made the rumors seem even more true. In addition to the crown prince's weak body, were they really worried that he would die at any moment? Then wouldn't she be a living widow? Now that there was so much fighting in the court, what if the crown prince didn't become emperor? Considering all these reasons, the risk of marrying the crown prince was too high. Everyone would want to marry the second prince. Those who wanted to marry the crown prince were either forced by their families or wanted to take a gamble. If they won, they would have a meteoric rise. If they lost, they would die. Lu Miaoqiu had clearly dissected many things. She naturally adjusted her state of mind and looked at the crown prince calmly and gently. Her eyes were pure and clean. It was as if she was looking at everyone. Undoubtedly, such an action was special in Xiao Yuling's eyes. In reality, there was nothing special about it. Jing Yu had seen everything that had happened. She couldn't help but admire Lu Miaoqiu's actions. Although Xiao Yuling hadn't paid much attention to Lu Miaoqiu, Jing Yu believed that as long as there was another unexpected encounter, then Lu Miaoqiu's position as the crown princess would be secured. Jing Yu was secretly reassured by her scheming. Even if she couldn't climb to a high position, she could at least protect herself. The people in the seats of honor chatted amicably. The empress and Fu Ruoqing would occasionally praise this young lady, hoping to attract their attention. Jing Yu listened as if it had nothing to do with her until she heard Fu Ruoqing's words. This concubine remembers the second miss of the prime minister's residence. Jing Yan is also a rare beauty. She has close relations with the second prince. May I know where Jing Yan is now? Fu Ruoqing said as she looked down. Jing Yu, who had been sitting quietly behind Jing Yu for a long time, heard this and finally loosened her grip on the embroidered handkerchief. Chapter 483. This humble girl, Jing Yan, greets Your Majesty the Empress and Your Highness the Crown Prince. Jing Yan bowed gracefully in her white robes. Her graceful temperament made the eyes of the beauty who had seen many complicated palace dresses light up. If this had happened in the past, she would have definitely attracted Xiao Jingran's attention. However, Xiao Jingran's attention was not on Jing Yan at all. She is indeed a beauty. The empress looked Jing Yan up and down and nodded slightly. A faint smile appeared in Fu Ruoqing's eyes. She turned to look at Xiao Jingran as if waiting for him to speak, but Xiao Jingran's gaze was not on Jing Yan at all. The moment Jing Yan stood up, Xiao Jingran saw Jingyu sitting quietly in the front row. Her indifferent expression was just like in his memory. She was dressed in dark purple robes and was elegant and luxurious. The current Jingyu was undoubtedly attractive. Ahem. The Empress clearly noticed where Xiao Jingran was looking and pretended to cough, successfully making Xiao Jingran turn back. Imperial Mother, Miss Jing Yan is indeed beautiful, but I already have someone in my heart. Xiao Jingran said indifferently. Oh, someone in your heart? I wonder which family's young lady has caught second prince's eye? Fu Ruoqing was slightly taken aback. She turned to look at Xiao Jingran and asked. The moment Xiao Jingran finished speaking, Jing Yan's expression turned ugly. If I really want to take a wife, then I want to marry Jingyu. Xiao Jingran turned to look at Fei Yaju and said with a slight smile. What? Fei Yaju's heart suddenly shrank. Seeing Xiao Jingran's expression, she knew that he was not joking. Fu Ruoqing and Ning Xiangyuan were both shocked. Jing Yan, who was standing below, was shocked. She clenched the handkerchief in her hand tightly and lowered her head. Her teeth were almost crushed from clenching. On the other hand, Jingyu, who was sitting in her original position, had a dark expression and was about to crush her teeth. Xiao Jingran, you pig! Damn it! What did I do to provoke you? Why are you biting onto me and not letting me go? Why can't our childhood engagement be counted? Now that we are both unmarried, why can't I marry her? Xiao Jingran stood up and walked in front of Fei Yaju. He slowly bowed and said, I am willing to marry Jingyu as my wife. Imperial Mother, please grant my wish. I don't agree. I don't agree. I don't agree. The moment she finished speaking, Xiao Chen, who was dressed in black at the entrance to the Imperial Garden, stood with his hands behind his back. Jingyu's voice. Jingyu's words. Xiao stood Black Xiao at the entrance Imperial Garden. Jingyu, this. Jing. Black Mother. As for the last word, it came from the other side of the Imperial Garden. Who else could it be but Helian Theo? Beside Helian Theo was the Tokyo Emperor's personal eunuch. Everyone's eyes fell on Helian Xiao and Xiao Chen, who had suddenly arrived. One by one, they stood up and bowed. Xiao Chen and Helian Theo didn't expect to see each other under these circumstances. They narrowed their eyes and sized each other up. Then, they stepped into the tea party and stood in front of Fei Yaju. They bowed to Fei Yaju and the Crown Prince. When Xiao Jingran saw Xiao Chen's arrival, a cold light flashed in his eyes. He narrowed his eyes and said to Xiao Chen, Ninth Emperors, your engagement with Jingyu has already been annulled. Could it be that you still want to interfere with this king's marriage? Chapter 484. Xiao Chen glanced at Xiao Jingran indifferently. He didn't even say anything to Xiao Jingran. Instead, he turned his head and looked at Jingyu, who had just stood up. He clenched his fists tightly and a complicated look flashed in his eyes. Your Highness, Second Prince, Jingyu cannot marry you. Helian Xiao smiled at Xiao Jingran. The corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile as he spoke. Prince Helian, this is our Tokyo-S family matter. It's not your place to butt in, is it? Xiao Jingran was already angry enough when he was ignored by Xiao Chen. Now, a foreign prince also dared to stop him. How could Xiao Jingran endure it? Well said. This is this prince's family matter. Second Prince Xiao, it's better if you don't interfere. Helian Theo narrowed his eyes and smiled. That smile was extremely dazzling. He turned his head and looked at Jingyu. The smile on his face slowly deepened as he said, This prince has just discussed with His Majesty the Tokyo to marry Jingyu, the eldest daughter of the Prime Minister's estate. This will allow us to establish a good relationship between our northern pastoral and Tokyo for 100 years. What did you say? Xiao Jingran widened his eyes in disbelief. Xiao Chen also suddenly turned his head and stared at Helian Theo with a gaze as sharp as a knife. If you don't believe this prince's words, you can ask Eunuch Mu if this is true. Helian Theo turned his head and looked at Eunuch Mu, who was standing at the side. He was a trusted aide of the emperor. Replying to Second Prince, what Helian Fifth Prince said is true. His Majesty has indeed agreed. Eunuch Mu was suddenly called out, but he was still calm. He bowed to the crowd and replied. It was true. However, there was another sentence. If Jingyu was willing, he could agree. Hellion Theo. Xiao Chen almost gnashed his teeth as he glared at Hellion Theo. In the next second, he was about to step forward and tear Hellion Theo to shreds. Enough. Jingyu walked over with small steps and scanned the crowd indifferently. She sneered and said indifferently, I won't marry anyone. If you insist on marrying, then you can carry my corpse to the wedding. Shut up. Fei Yaju's head was starting to hurt because of this group of people. Seeing the three men arguing, she furrowed her brows and said angrily, Jing Ran, don't mess around. If 5th Prince Huyen's words are true, an imperial edict will be issued. Xiao Chen, you shouldn't be so ignorant. This is the Tokyo, and you are the 9th emperors of the Tokyo. As Fei Yaju's voice fell, the three of them slowly fell silent. If it's possible, I'd rather not be the 9th emperors. Xiao Chen sneered without care. Fei Yaju's expression changed. Xiao Chen turned around and looked at Jingyu with a burning gaze. He stared at Jingyu for a long time. His hands that were hanging by his side loosened and clenched many times. Finally, he silently turned around and left. This storm became the biggest topic of discussion at this tea party. Jingyu fiercely became famous, but Xiao Jingran was reprimanded because of this matter. As the Tokyo prince, Xiao Jingran didn't act like a prince at all. How could the emperor tolerate him making trouble again and again? You have to marry this first consort whether you don't want to or not. Let the empress decide. The wedding will be held in the 8th month. These were the last words Xiao Yi left behind. It was certain that Xiao Jingran must marry. However, who would have thought that Xiao Jingran would publicly contradict the emperor? Other than Jingyu, I won't marry anyone else. You're rebelling. You're all like this. What's so good about that Jingyu? If we kill her with one strike, will you all rebel? This was probably the most angry Xiao Yi had ever been. Chapter 485. Imperial Father, if you kill Jingyu, then you won't have a son like me, Xiao Jingran said. In the end, Xiao Jingran was imprisoned and Xiao Yi smashed everything in the study. It was said that his anger didn't subside for 2 whole days. This was the first time an emperor was threatened by his own son, and it was because of a woman. Hellion Theo, you better give me an explanation. As soon as they left the palace, Jingyu could not hold it in any longer. She dragged Hellion Xiao into the restaurant and bombarded him with questions. Little beauty, why are you so angry? Hellion Theo smiled as he looked at Jingyu's angry appearance. His eyes were smiling as he said, Isn't it good to marry this young master? Whatever Xiao Chen can give you, this young master can give you. You can do whatever you want. I'm not interested. Jingyu glared at Hellion Theo. You've really hurt this young master's heart. If you're willing to marry me, I'll let you open your business in the Northern Pastoral. From then on, you'll be able to move freely in the Northern Pastoral without any hindrance. What do you think? Hellion Theo smiled as he looked at Hellion Theo. Oh, you even know how to tempt me. If I don't marry you, are you going to put up a wanted poster and forbid Jingyu from entering the Northern Pastoral? Jingyu looked at Hellion Theo with disdain. Jingyu, I'm not joking with you. Hellion Theo's expression slowly changed as he looked at Jingyu with a burning gaze. Do you think I'm joking with you? Jingyu calmly and quietly looked back at Hellion Xiao. Her pitch-black eyes were also filled with seriousness. Does it have to be Xiao Chen? Hellion Theo narrowed his eyes. Jingyu calmly turned her head and said, If I don't marry Xiao Chen, then I definitely won't marry you. But Hellion Theo raised his eyebrows in surprise. Do you like me? Do you love me? Jingyu stretched and stood up. Hellion Theo, you think too highly of yourself. I won't marry you. Hellion Theo slowly fell silent. He looked at Jingyu's back as she stood in front of the window and was in a trance. Although he already knew Jingyu's answer, a very strange feeling in his heart. Hellion Theo was unwilling? Or jealousy? Hellion Xiao himself could not explain it clearly. If you don't want to marry me, then I won't force you to marry me. Hellion Theo calmly stood up and said, In 10 days I will return to Northern Pastoral. What I said just now still stands. If you want to expand your business into Northern Pastoral, I will definitely welcome you. Are you serious? Jing-Yu turned to look at him. Yes. Helian Theo arched his eyebrows and replied. Looking at that dazzling smile, Jing-Yu sighed from the bottom of her heart. Helian Theo, with your face, I'm too embarrassed to marry you. It's too embarrassing. Jing-Yu smiled and shook her head. Helian Theo was slightly stunned. He raised his hand to touch his cheek and blinked at Jing-Yu. Was her words just now a compliment? The Emperor's imperial edict did not come down. Jing-Yu was unwilling to marry Helian Theo. However, developing her business into Northern Pastoral made Jing-Yu have an idea. Now, Jing-Yu did not have much room to expand her business in Tokyo. If she started from Northern Pastoral, then it would be different. She had stayed in Tokyo for a long time. If she followed Helian Theo to Northern Pastoral, then it would be fine. Jing-Yu sat in the villa and hugged her knees as she looked at the scenery below. She was a little absent-minded. She had been in Tokyo for so long. It had been 2.5 years. She had found her father, brother, and home. Now, what she wanted to do the most was to develop her business. Chapter 486. A month or so should be enough. Jing-Yu rubbed her chin and thought about her future. The next day, Jing-Yu went to tell her father about her idea. Jing-Yu didn't agree to let Jing-Yu go out alone, but Jing-Yu's words made his heart ache. Father, I want to go back to Roman Forest. After all, I've lived there for 14 years. It's my home. Obviously, Jing-Yu won in the end. However, there was a request. Jing-Yu wanted Jing Lang to lead his soldiers to escort her to the Tokyo border and then come back. Originally, Jing-Yu felt that it was too troublesome. How could she get lost? However, Jing-Yu had no choice but to agree because Jing Zhan insisted. In order to develop the business, Jing-Yu immediately gathered everyone in the imperial city in a restaurant to discuss this matter. When Jing-Yu expressed that she wanted to develop the business to the Tokyo border, everyone agreed. However, if they took her away, the whole family would have to move. Otherwise, how could they protect the business? It wasn't easy to nurture a trusted aide. Everyone understood this. After discussing for an entire morning, they finally decided that Shin Yuqing would stay in the Tokyo and the rest would follow Jing-Yu to the Northern Pastoral. When everything was stable in the Northern Pastoral, 2 or 3 people would stay there and the rest would come back. It would be a long time. If they missed their families, they could bring them along. When the business was fully developed, they could return to the Tokyo if they wanted to. If they didn't want to, they could settle down in the Northern Pastoral. After everyone agreed, they immediately went to work. Due to the urgency of the situation, Jing-Yu had no choice but to help. She had been running around the imperial city for the past 2 days. Since it wasn't a big deal, Jing-Yu didn't tell anyone about it. Anyway, she would be back in a month. What was the hurry? Uncle Shen, get someone to make a copy of the restaurant's menu and the renovation drawings I gave you. I'll bring them to the Northern Pastoral. Jing-Yu stood in the restaurant. In order to organize things faster, Jing-Yu ordered all the businesses in the imperial city to close their doors overnight. Okay. Shin Yuqing nodded. Brother Xiao and my brothers will go with me this time. You won't have any helpers in the imperial city. I'll ask my father to give you a few trusted aides in the Prime Minister's residence. If you have any problems in the imperial city, you can go to the Prime Minister's mansion. Jing-Yu sighed as she looked around the restaurant. Boss, I understand. Shen Yuqing continued to nod. The managers of the other businesses have already trained their successors. Nothing major will happen. However, Uncle Shun will be much busier in the future. I'll need Uncle Shun to keep an eye on these businesses. Jing-Yu walked up the pavilion step by step and said, I don't need to keep this pavilion. After I leave, renovate it and let the customers use it. Boss, it's not like you won't come back. I'll keep this pavilion for you. Shen Yuqing was slightly stunned and said with a frown. Uncle Shin, I'm afraid that I'll be traveling and playing. I won't come to this restaurant often in the future. It'll be fine if I just find a place to do something. Jing-Yu looked at Shen Yuqing and said, This time, I plan to retire completely. I'll leave these businesses to you. I'll just help a little. Chapter 487. Boss. Is marrying to the Northern Pastoral? Shen Yuqing asked as he looked at Jingyu. He was reluctant to part with her. In the past few days, there had been a lot of rumors in the imperial city. Coincidentally, all of Jingyu's businesses were closed down at this time. It really made people speculate in their hearts. Shen Yuqing had been holding back this question for a long time. Now that there was no one around, he asked. Jingyu was silent for a moment. Then she smiled faintly and turned to go downstairs. She didn't answer Shen Yuqing's question. Jingyu told Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu about this matter on the fourth day. Shangguan Linglan arranged for the three of them to meet in Jinyan Restaurant. Jingyu stood in front of Jinyan Restaurant with some hesitation. Then she thought that Xiaochen shouldn't have the time to come to Jinyan Restaurant. Jingyu followed her memory and went upstairs. Shangguan Linglan and Ning Xiangyuan were talking and laughing in the private room. When they heard Jingyu's footsteps, they turned to look and happily welcomed her. The three of them eagerly sat down in the private room. That's what happened. Jingyu told the two of them the whole story. Only then did the two of them slowly breathe a sigh of relief. So you're going to do business? I thought you were really going to marry to the Northern Pastoral. Shangguan Linglan breathed a sigh of relief and held Jingyu's hand. Even if I'm going to marry, it can't be so quiet. Jingyu glared at him and said, it's a marriage alliance. No matter what, I should be given a title like a princess or princess. Then I'll get married in a dignified manner. It's not my style to be so cowardly. Jingyu was sitting on the cold steps. She held a cup of tea in her hand and said with a smile, how long are you going to be gone for? Shangguan Linglan stretched and asked Jingyu. I'm not sure either, but a few months is definitely necessary. The main thing is that I still want to bring Silver Arrow and Silver Wind to Roman Forest for a period of time. I originally wanted to invite you guys along, but Miaoqiu is currently at a critical juncture, so you absolutely can't. Jingyu said as she patted Lu Miaoqiu and Shangguan Linglan's shoulders in all seriousness. Yeah, can't you go in person? Lu Miaoqiu said as she held onto Jingyu's hand. It's fine. It's not like I'm not coming back. Jingyu patted Lu Miaoqiu's hand and said, I'll wait for your good news. Maybe when I come back, you'll be the crown princess. It's not even set in stone yet. Lu Miaoqiu stared at Jingyu with reluctance. Jingyu, it's good for you to go out and relax. It's best if you go early. Shangguan Linglan's eyes suddenly turned. He grabbed onto Jingyu's hand and said very seriously. Jingyu and Lu Miaoqiu were both stunned when they heard this. They looked at Shangguan Linglan with a puzzled expression. I say, are you waiting for me to leave quickly? Jingyu was suddenly unhappy. She stared at Shangguan Linglan and said, Ahem. Anyway, you have to leave. Shangguan Linglan coughed awkwardly and said, aren't you going to develop your business? Aren't you going back to the forest? Don't worry. I'll take care of Miaoqiu's matter. Jingyu looked at Shangguan Linglan suspiciously and said, are you hiding something from me? You're actually chasing me out. I swear to God. There's really nothing. Shangguan Linglan's body stiffened, and he raised his hand and swore seriously. Chapter 488. Bullshit. You're really a 4. Why are you making a 4-hand sign? Jingyu almost spat on Shangguan Linglan. She just realized that this guy had been with her for so long that he had almost become a modern person. Look at how smart he was. Yeah. Shangguan Linglan lowered his head dispiritedly and muttered, Anyway, you're going to leave. It's better if you don't know about this so that you won't be angry. Besides, I was the one who eavesdropped. I don't even know if it's true. What's the matter? It must be something good for our Miss Shangguan to be like this. Jingyu laughed and pulled Shangguan Linglan's hand with a gossipy expression. Tell me about it. It's like this. Shangguan Linglan sighed helplessly. When he straightened his body and was about to start talking, he suddenly heard a loud bang from outside the private room. The three of them were shocked and quickly stretched their necks to look. They looked at each other and stood up. Someone actually dares to cause trouble in Jinyan Restaurant. Are they tired of living? Jingyu muttered and went to open the door of the private room. She saw that there was a dispute in the private room opposite. You actually dare to point fingers at this princess? Do you know who this princess is? A sharp voice sounded. There were already many people outside the private room. Once Jingyu heard this voice, she would know who it was even if she was blindfolded, let alone now that she saw it. Oh my god. Why is Princess Leong here? Isn't it just a shabby restaurant? As long as this princess is willing, I can make your Jinyan restaurant close down at any time. Fu Leong arrogantly raised her chin. Her rose-red dress contrasted with her snow-white skin. How could such a beauty be born with such a face? Princess Leong, aren't you being too arrogant with your words? While Jingyu was secretly complaining, a light voice cut in. Fong Zicheng was still the same as when they first met. His face was handsome with a gentle smile, and his green robe was full of the charm of a fine young master. Smiling tiger! Old fox! Jingyu muttered as she looked at Fong Zicheng's smiling face. Young Master Fong. When Princess Leong saw Fong Zicheng, she paused for a moment before standing up and smiling. Jingyu couldn't help but laugh out loud when she heard Fu Leong call her that. She quickly covered her mouth. It wasn't her fault. Young Master Fong, does he have Young Master Yuan? Princess Leong, are you here for a meal? What did Jinyan restaurant do wrong to make Princess Leong so unhappy? Fong Zicheng narrowed his eyes and looked at Fu Leong. The smile on his face didn't disappear at all as he asked. This princess can be considered a regular customer of Jinyan restaurant. Today, I couldn't even get an identity ring from the manager. Isn't Jinyan restaurant looking down on me too much? Fu Leong arrogantly raised her chin, as if she felt that it was Jinyan restaurant's fortune to be able to ask for the ring. Jinyan restaurant's rings have always been given to the fated ones. Fate can't be forced. It seems that Princess Leong doesn't have any fate with Jinyan restaurant. Fong Zicheng smiled. Name a price. This princess must have this ring today. Fu Leong was choked by Fong Zicheng's words. Seeing that there were so many people watching today, if she couldn't get the ring, it would be a great loss of face. She was very unwilling to accept it. She grasped the brocade handkerchief in her hand, raised her chin and looked sideways at the manager. Chapter 489. Princess Leong, please forgive me. This ring is priceless. I can't make the decision. The steward was calm. After throwing out these words, he still stood there without moving. Nonsense. Fu Leong slapped the table and stood up. She angrily rebuked, You can even make the decision to give out Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan's rings. Why can't you give it to me? I think you are looking down on me. Looking down on my grand tutor's residence. Someone come. Smash this lousy restaurant for me. Stuff. A loud shout was heard. The crowd slowly parted to make a path. Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan's figures appeared. Princess Leong, I am not happy with your words. What do you mean by giving it to us? If I can't give it to you, does that mean I am looking down on you? Jingyu couldn't bear it anymore. Originally, she wanted to watch the show. Now that she was involved, she had to bear the brunt of it. Didn't you hear what Fong Zicheng said? This ring is given to the fated person. If you give it to us, it only means that we are fated with Jinyan Hall. You are just not fated yet. Jingyu looked at Fu Leong seriously and said, I was wondering who it was. So it is Miss Jing. Fu Leong was slightly stunned, and then the corners of his mouth curled up into a contemptuous smile. The gaze he used to size up Jingyu was full of ridicule, and this gaze made Jingyu's hair stand on end. Why was this fellow ridiculing her for no reason? Did I offend her? Jingyu? Why you here? When Fong Zicheng saw Jingyu, Shangguan Linglan, and the others, he was also stunned for a moment before a smile appeared on his face. The difference between this smile and the previous one was like heaven and earth, okay? This was the smile that an elegant young master should have. It made people feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. What? Can't we come? Jingyu glared at Fong Zicheng, then turned to Fu Leong and said, Princess Leong, if you really want to smash this restaurant, you'd better find out who owns it first. Otherwise, if you provoke someone you shouldn't provoke, you'll lose more than you gain. What do you mean by that? Princess Leong's heart tightened as she frowned at Jingyu and asked. It's literally what it means. Jing Yu shrugged indifferently and said, if you want to smash it, then smash it. We'll watch you smash it. Jing Yu said as she turned around to stand at the door. Stop. Fu Leong raised his voice to stop Jing Yu. He narrowed his eyes and sneered, are you trying to say that this restaurant belongs to the 9 emperors? Jing Yu was stunned. She turned around with surprise in her eyes. Fu Leong actually knew that this restaurant belonged to Shaoqin? Ah, it really belongs to the 9 emperors. Fu Leong looked at Jing Yu's expression with joy in his eyes. Jing Yu was slightly stunned. She didn't expect Fu Leong to be so capable. However, Fu Liang's status was considered an overlord in the imperial city. There were only a few people who could make her afraid. It was easy to figure it out. Since it belongs to the 9 emperors, I naturally won't smash it. Fu Liang's lips curled into a happy smile. He looked around the Jinyan restaurant with satisfaction and said proudly, since it belongs to my family, why would I smash it? Aha! Jing Yu laughed out loud. She looked at Fu Leong and said helplessly, Princess Leong, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. How did the 9 Emperors restaurant become your family's property? Could it be? Chapter 490. Jing Yu was only halfway through her sentence when she suddenly paused. The expression on her face slowly disappeared. Shangguan Linglong, who was standing beside Jing Yu, covered her face in embarrassment. Fu Leong, on the other hand, seemed to have discovered something extremely interesting. Step by step, she walked towards Jing Yu. Looks like eldest Miss Jing still doesn't know? Fu Leong sized up Jing Yu. Her eyes revealed a faint smile as she said, it's no wonder. Everyone knows that Jing Yu's marriage with the 9th Emperors has been annulled. Now, I'm about to be appointed as the 9th Imperial concubine. I'm telling you this so early. I'm really afraid that you'll be sad. Fu Leong's words were incomparably boastful. Jing Yu's blood froze because of Fu Leong's words. Every inch of her body turned cold. She unconsciously clenched her fists and forced a smile. She tilted her head to look at Shangguan Linglong, as if to ask if she had heard wrongly just now. Shangguan Linglong couldn't bear to see her like this. She nodded her head with great difficulty. Jing Yu fell into a strange silence. Even her breathing paused momentarily. Jing Yu, this might be a rumor. The imperial edict hasn't been issued yet. Shangguan Linglong looked at Jing Yu's expression. She hurriedly went forward to hold Jing Yu's hand and comforted her. Whether it's a rumor or not, we'll know tomorrow. Princess Leong seemed to be enjoying herself. She looked at Jing Yu with incomparable pride and said, my father has already entered the palace to request for the imperial edict. When the time comes for the wedding between this princess and the 9th emperors, eldest Miss Jing must definitely come. Shangguan Linglong glared angrily at Fu Leong's face. She simply couldn't wait to tear her apart. Haha. Jing Yu covered her mouth and laughed. She narrowed her eyes at Fu Leong. Her gaze made Fu Leong's expression change slightly. He didn't know why Jing Yu was laughing for no reason. I think you should let Imperial concubine Fu attend your wedding. You used to be a childhood sweetheart, but now you want to marry your own sister? It's really interesting. Jing Yu said with a laugh. Before she turned around and left, she said calmly, I really want to ask Fu Ruoqing how she feels right now. Fu Liang's face suddenly turned ashen, and his small face flushed red. Jing Yu silently returned to her private room and closed the door without another word. She slowly let out a sigh of relief and said, to deal with this kind of woman, we should fight poison with poison. I'm afraid I can't suppress her. Jing Yu casually sat down on the soft couch. What are you looking at me for? Take a seat. Hold. Jing Yu stared at Shangguan Linglong and Lu Miaoqiu, who were still standing there. Jing Yu, if you feel bad, then cry. I definitely won't tell anyone about you crying. Shangguan Linglong stared at Jing Yu with a serious expression. That's right. Yeah, if you feel bad, don't hold it in. We won't laugh at you. Lu Miaoqiu also looked at Jing Yu with a worried expression. Jing Yu stared at the two of them and said, which eye of yours saw that I was sad? Two. Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu said in unison. Jing Yu face-bombed. Linglan, did you already know that Xiao Chen was going to marry Fu Leong? After watching Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu sit down, Jing Yu leisurely picked up a piece of pastry and casually asked while eating. I only found out yesterday. Shangguan Linglan said with a vexed expression. I was just about to tell you that I eavesdropped on my father's conversation last night. He seemed to be talking about the Grand Tutor and the Emperor talking about marrying Fu Leong to the 9 emperors. Chapter 491. But I was only eavesdropping. I didn't hear everything. I wanted to find out more before telling you. Who knew? Shangguan Linglan pursed his lips in annoyance. Oh. Jing Yu responded very calmly. She looked a little absent-minded, as if she was thinking about something. Stop eating. It'll be bad if you choke. Lu Miaoqiu looked at Jing Yu, who was stuffing pastries into her mouth, and her heart was filled with heartache as she hurriedly said, Ah! Jing Yu was stunned. Then she spat out the pastries in her mouth. Her face was flushed red. She looked for water in a hurry and gulped down a few mouthfuls. She almost choked herself to death. Her eyes were red and tears were dripping down. Yeah. Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu hurriedly wiped Jing Yu's mouth. However, Jing Yu's eyes were filled with more and more tears. They kept falling down. I almost choked. My tears are coming out. Jing Yu didn't care as she wiped her face. However, the tears that she had just wiped away seemed to be endless. Jing Yu wiped them again and again. Finally, she seemed to be angry and slammed her hand on the table. Yeah. Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu were frightened by Jing Yu's appearance. Xiao Chen, you bastard! Jing Yu roared and kicked the table on the soft couch down. The porcelain bowls on the table broke into pieces on the ground. That's right. Xiao Chen is a bastard. Bastard! Shangguan Linglan clapped his hands and shouted angrily, He's a stinky man. He's not a thing. That's right. Lu Miaoqiu was frightened by Shangguan Linglan's attitude. When she saw Shangguan Linglan winking at her, she quickly said, This kind of man is not worthy of Ye. He's a piece of shit. Xiao Chen, you'll never get it up again. She couldn't bear a son. You bastard. Jing Yu cursed unscrupulously. Shangguan Linglan's face turned red and his neck was thick with anger. All kinds of dirty words were thrown at Xiao Chen. Lu Miaoqiu was obviously the kind of person who didn't know how to scold people. She kept saying things like heartless man and bastard, which made Jing Yu laugh. Fang Zicheng originally wanted to see Jing Yu. Who knew that he would encounter such a scene when he walked to the door? Hearing the scolding inside, he took a deep breath. This scolding was too harsh. They even scolded him for being impotent and cursed Xiao Chen for not being able to bear a son? Xiao Chen was a man. How could he bear a son? Fang Zicheng trembled violently. He mourned for Xiao Chen in his heart. Only this person dared to scold the 9 emperors. He turned around and told people not to come near. Then he walked away. This was Xiao Chen's business. It had nothing to do with him. It was troublesome enough to worry about his business. He hadn't even found his own wife. Why should he care about other people's wives? Without a doubt, this was the best day Jing Yu had ever had. She hummed a tune as she walked back to the Prime Minister's residence. The next day, the marriage of the 9 emperors and Fu Leong was announced. Following that, an imperial edict was announced. The marriage of the second prince and Jing Yan was also announced. It seemed that Jing Yan had really endured to the end. Chapter 492. At the beginning of June, Jing Yu was finally done with her preparations in the imperial city. In order to prepare herself, Jing Yu went to Heli and Theo and won the delay of the trip to the northern pastoral. They were supposed to set off on May 25th, but Jing Yu delayed it until the beginning of June. On the last day of May, Jing Yu finally made arrangements for everything that needed to be done. Tomorrow was the day of departure. Father, I've prepared everything that needs to be prepared. We'll set off tomorrow. Everyone sat together. You must be careful on the road. Jing Zhan held Jing Zhan's hand and was full of worry. Father, it's okay. Big brother will escort me all the way. Moreover, Big brother Shao and other brothers will protect me when I go to the northern pastoral. Father, you've seen them before. Nothing will happen. Jingyu looked at Jingzhan's worried face and smiled. Alas. Go early and come back early. Father will be fine in the imperial city. Don't worry. Jingzhan lovingly patted Jingyu's head and said. Jingyu arched her eyebrows and nodded. The family sat together and laughed for a long time. Jingyu deeply felt the deep affection that made her heart soften. In this life, she was no longer a homeless wild child. She had a family, a father, and brothers. What was there to be dissatisfied with? Jingyu's departure was not a big deal. Shengguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu insisted on seeing her off. Jingyu had no choice but to let them wait outside the city. There were still many people and goods in the imperial city that needed to be brought. It would take some time. Jingyu changed into light clothes and saw that everything was packed. Then, she came out of the courtyard and prepared to set off. Before she reached the gate, she happened to see Jing Yan leading a group of people towards the gate. Obviously, they were here to see her off. Now that Jingyu was the second prince's appointed princess consort, her attire naturally couldn't be lacking. Looking at how Jingyu had immediately transformed, Jingyu was also convinced. In the future, she would be the second prince's legal wife. At this moment, Jing Yan also saw Jingyu. She was stunned for a moment, but then she put on an extremely bright smile and greeted her warmly. She bowed slightly to Jingyu and said, Greetings, eldest Mississippi, you're welcome. I'll have to pay my respects to you when I see you in the future, Jingyu said with a faint smile. The eldest young mistress, what are you saying? Jing Yan smiled shyly, but she couldn't hide the pride in her eyes. She smiled at Jingyu and said, Eldest young mistress, don't be sad. Although the 9 emperors don't like eldest young mistress, there are many outstanding men in the world. Are you blind? Jingyu looked coldly at Jing Yan, then turned and left. Jing Yan's breathing stagnated. She looked angrily at Jingyu as she turned and said with a cold smile, In the past, I thought that I was favored by the 9th emperors. On the day of the wedding, didn't the 9th emperor still leave the city? I wonder if he already has a relationship with another woman. Jingyu left quickly and didn't hear Jing Yan's last words. However, Nuanyu, who was following behind Jingyu, heard it clearly. She turned and glared at Jing Yan, feeling indignant for Jingyu. It was clearly eldest young mistress who didn't want to marry the 9th emperors. Why did these people say that eldest young mistress was abandoned by the 9th emperors? No wonder eldest young mistress didn't even want to talk to Jing Yan. She was really blind. Chapter 493. Nuanyu angrily helped Jingyu into the carriage. Looking at the several carriages full of goods, she felt a little sad. Eldest Miss was in such a hurry to go to the northern pastoral, so she must not be able to stand the chatter in the imperial city. She really felt bad for eldest Miss when she left with such grievances. Nuanyu sighed slightly. Holding the bundle in her hands, she also got into the carriage. Jingyu originally didn't want Nuanyu to go with her, but this girl insisted on going, saying that eldest Miss couldn't take good care of herself when she was alone outside. She was happy to go with her. Jingyu couldn't persuade her, so she just followed Nuanyu. Little beauty, you can't bear to leave? Heli and Theo's carriage was already waiting at the gate. Jingyu stood at the gate of the imperial city, looking at the prosperity of the imperial city. There was a slight bitterness in her mouth. Shengguan Linglan, Lu Miaoqiu, and the others were all looking from afar. Jingyu smiled and turned to leave without any reluctance. Let's go. Jingyu lowered her eyes and got into the carriage. It will take some time for me to come back. Heli and Theo looked at Jingyu with a different kind of seductive look in his eyes. He said with a smile, You really won't marry me? I won't marry you. Jingyu glared at Heli and Theo, then turned and got into the carriage. Heli and Theo looked at Jingyu's appearance and spread his hands helplessly. He felt very indignant. In any case, he was the 5th prince of the northern pastoral. Why did he have to beg others to marry his wife? It was really, alas. After leaving the imperial city and walking for a while, Jing Yu went to the mountains and took Yin Jian and Yin Feng with her. Yin Jian and Yin Feng had grown up a lot. Their sturdy bodies were very beautiful, and their fur was smooth and shiny. They were in their prime. In order to make it easier for the journey, Jing Yu had people prepare a sedan chair. When there were many people, she let Yin Jian and Yin Feng hide in it. When there was no one, she let them out to play. In the beginning, Yin Jian and Yin Feng were very frightening to the people accompanying them, but after a few days, they weren't afraid anymore. Jing Yu's departure was simple and straightforward. She didn't even cause any commotion. Jing Yu had been gone for 3 days. When Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu heard that the crown prince had left the palace today and that he was going to have lunch at the splendid feast house, the two of them couldn't sit still. They wanted to use this opportunity to meet the crown prince. "Oh, how come the two of you have time to come to Jinyan restaurant?" Fang Zicheng was about to step out of Jinyan restaurant when he saw Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu get off the carriage. He was slightly surprised, but then he smiled and went to greet them. "Go." Shangguan Linglan saw Fang Zicheng's small face and suddenly shivered. He stared at Fang Zicheng and said, "Jing Yu was right when she said you were a smiling tiger. Look at your smile, it gives me goosebumps." Smiling tiger? Fang Zicheng was slightly stunned. He didn't know when he had been called this. "Isn't that the smiling tiger?" Shangguan Linglan said with a smile. "This Jing Yu is really... When she comes, I have to have a good talk with her. How did I become a smiling tiger?" Fang Zicheng said with a look of injustice. "If you want to talk to her, I'm afraid you'll have to wait for a year or so." Shangguan Linglan stared at Fang Zicheng disinterestedly. Obviously, the two girls missed Jing Yu. He sighed and was about to walk to the restaurant. Fang Zicheng was stunned. When he saw that the two were about to walk past him and leave, he anxiously grabbed Shangguan Linglan's hand and asked anxiously, "What did you just say? A year or so?" Chapter 494. Huh. Shangguan Linglan was also stunned by Fang Zicheng's question. He looked at Fang Zicheng in confusion and said, "You don't know? Jing Yu went to the northern pastoral with Helian Theo 3 days ago. I don't know when she will be back." "What? She went to the northern pastoral?" Fang Zicheng's eyes suddenly widened. The smile on his face disappeared completely, and his mind was in a state of chaos. "Yes, what's wrong?" Shangguan Linglan looked at Fang Zicheng's shocked expression. He and Lu Miaoqiu looked at each other in confusion. Didn't this person know? "Oh no!" Fang Zicheng hurriedly said and ran toward the Wang mansion. He didn't look like a noble young master at all. Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu were stunned. In the end, they could only shake their heads and enter the restaurant. They were here for business. The Wang mansion was dark. Yi Jun, Xing Yi, and Xing Er stood in front of the room with serious expressions. Creak. The closed door slowly opened. Qinggu walked out while wiping the sweat on his forehead. "How is master?" Interrogation Officer 1 and Yi Jun hurriedly came up to him and asked. "The poison acted up too quickly this time. If I wasn't here, Brother Jio wouldn't have been able to keep his life." Qinggu sighed deeply and said, "The amount of medicine I made was too small. I barely managed to suppress the poison the first few times. This time, Brother Jio suffered internal injuries and didn't cooperate with me to treat him. The new injury and the old illness acted up together. It's really..." After hearing Qing Ji's words, Xing Yi and Xing Er's expressions became serious. A few days ago, Master had been looking for the imperial concubine and hadn't been able to change the medicine in time. He didn't treat Brother Jio in peace either. They didn't expect Brother Jio to suddenly become like this. "Don't worry. With me here, Brother Jio will be fine. However, he must rest." Qinggu took a deep breath and said, "I'll go make medicine for Brother Jio." "Thank you, Lord Qinggu." Xing Yi and Xing Er bowed and thanked him. Qinggu waved his hand slightly and turned to leave. Xing Yi and Xing Er looked at each other with anxious expressions. "What do we do now? His Majesty's Imperial Edict has already been issued. Master is unconscious. How should we deal with it? What do we do now?" Xing Er's expression was cold. He held the long sword at his waist tightly with one hand and looked sideways at Xing Yi as he asked. We can't let Master worry now. Let's wait until Master wakes up before we make a plan. Xing Yi sighed deeply and said, let's stall for time. The Emperor will send a message to the eldest princess to stall for time. Okay. Xing Er nodded slightly and turned to leave. However, just as he left the courtyard, he saw Fang Zicheng hurrying over. Young Master Fang. Xing Er bowed slightly to Fang Zicheng politely. Xing Er, quick, take me to see your master. It'll be too late if we're late. Fang Zicheng saw Xing Er and hurried forward to grab Xing Er's hand. Master is resting. It's not convenient for him to see guests. Xing Er frowned slightly and said coldly, this is an important matter. You must let Ninth Master see me. Fang Zicheng looked solemnly at Xing Er and said. Xing Er frowned. The commotion here had attracted the attention of Xing Yi and Yijuan. They both walked over. When they saw Fang Zicheng, Xing Yi was slightly taken aback and immediately bowed. Young Master Fang, why are you looking for Master in such a hurry? Xing Yi asked with a frown. This matter is related to Jingyu. Please let me see Xiao Chen. Fang Zicheng even called out Xiao Chen's name. It was obvious how important this matter was. When Xing Yi and Xing Er heard that it was related to Jingyu, their expressions immediately became serious. Chapter 495. Master Xing Yi hesitated for a moment. Just as he was about to speak, he heard a cough behind him. What's wrong with Jingyu? The hoarse voice sounded weak. Xing Yi and Xing Er turned around in shock. Xiao Chen was in his undergarments, standing in front of the door with a pale face. Fang Zicheng was stunned by his pale face and bloodless lips. Master, you're awake. Why are you up? Lie down. Xing Yi and Xing Er hurried forward to support Xiao Chen, but Xiao Chen raised his hand to stop them. He looked at Fang Zicheng with his dark eyes and asked again, what's wrong with Jingyu? This question was asked very softly, but there was a sense of urgency in his voice. Jingyu? Fang Zicheng originally came with a heart full of anxiety, but when he saw Xiao Chen's state, he wanted to retreat. Should he tell Xiao Chen about this? If he didn't tell him now, Xiao Chen would find out sooner or later. By then it would be too late. Speak. Xiao Chen's face slowly darkened, and he stared at Fang Zicheng with his sharp eyes. Jingyu went to the northern pastoral with Heli and Theo. She left 3 days ago. Fang Zicheng lowered his hand and said slowly. Xing Yi and Xing Er widened their eyes in disbelief. Xiao Chen's breathing suddenly stopped. At this moment, he seemed to hear a roar in his ears. The world collapsed and ceased to exist. It's left. Xiao Chen's lips trembled. He looked at Fang Zicheng in a daze and asked in a very soft voice. She left. Fang Zicheng took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and nodded. Xiao Chen's body swayed. Xing Yi and Xing Er hurried forward to support Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen suddenly smiled. That smile made everyone's heart skip a beat. Under everyone's horrified gaze, Xiao Chen's expression suddenly changed. He spat out a mouthful of blood from his tumbling chest. The dark red blood stung everyone's eyes. Master! Master! Ninth brother! Qinggu came in with the herbs in his hand. When he saw this scene, he was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly ran toward Xiao Chen. The scene was in chaos. Xiao Chen fainted again. When he woke up, it was already night time. Xing Yi and Xing Er were guarding the door in the dark night. Xiao Chen slowly opened his eyes. He seemed to be in a daze for a long time. Then, he clutched his chest and slowly got up. Xing Yi and Xing Er naturally heard the commotion in the room. They hurriedly pushed the door open and walked in. Master? Xing Yi and Xing Er went forward and helped Xiao Chen to lie down. Call Qinggu over. Xiao Chen leaned against the bed quietly with his eyes closed. He turned his head sideways and said to Xing Er. Yes. Xing Er bowed in response. Xiao Chen watched indifferently as Xing Er walked out. He took a deep breath and clutched his aching chest. When did she leave? Where is she now? Who else left with her? He asked a series of questions in a calm and emotionless tone. Xing Yi's face gradually turned serious. When they heard this news, They had already found out everything during the short time Xiao Chen was in a coma. They knew that their master would definitely ask about it when he woke up. Miss Jingyu left 3 days ago. She took all the people in charge of the businesses in the Imperial City with her. Only the manager of the Yuqianlai restaurant was left. Young Master Jingyu was escorting Miss Jingyu in a carriage. According to the news, young Master Jing Lang led the troops to escort Miss Jingyu to the border fortress before returning, Xing Yi said carefully. Chapter 496. Did you leave with Helian Theo? Xiao Chen asked as he pursed his lips. Yes, sir, Interrogation Officer 1 answered with some apprehension. Xiao Chen slowly fell silent. His intentions were obvious. Elder brother escorted her out of the country, all the businesses in the Imperial City moved, and Jingyu. Are you really going to leave so heartlessly? How can you leave? Ninth brother. Qinggu strode in with a look of surprise. When he saw Xiao Chen leaning against the bed, his eyes lit up with joy. He finally heaved a sigh of relief. You really scared me to death. Ninth brother, if I didn't have a life-saving elixir left behind by Master, I wouldn't have been able to heal your injuries. Qinggu looked at Xiao Chen with a look of false alarm. He sized him up and said, It seems that Master didn't lie to me. He said that this elixir wouldn't be effective unless you were about to die. If you were to use it at that moment, you would immediately recover. Thank you. Qinggu said it casually, but Xiao Chen understood that this elixir was probably a life-saving elixir left behind by Qingji's master for his disciple. However, Qinggu had given it to Xiao Chen so straightforwardly. You and I are brothers. Is there a need to thank each other? Qinggu waved his hand nonchalantly. He stepped forward and patted Xiao Chen on the shoulder. He said, Decoct another portion of the elixir tonight. It will be able to suppress your injuries before noon tomorrow. There won't be any problems. I have also prepared the medicine. It will be enough for you to take for a few months to suppress your injuries. Qinggu. Xiao Chen's eyes widened slightly. I don't believe that Jingyu would leave so easily. There must be some misunderstanding. Qinggu took a deep breath and said, The only person in this world who is worthy of ninth brother is Jingyu. Ninth brother must get ninth sister back. Xiao Chen's lips slowly curled into a smile. However, Brother Jiu must come back before he finishes taking the medicine. Otherwise, if he can't be treated in time, I'm afraid something big will happen, Qinggu told Xiao Chen seriously. All right, Xiao Chen replied in silence. Jingyu's entourage headed towards the northern pastoral. If they wanted to leave the Imperial City, they would have to pass through Jadestone Pass. It was the same for the northern pastoral. They would head towards the northern pastoral from Jadestone Pass. After the incident with Jingjing, Jadestone Pass was heavily guarded by the Emperor. Jingyu's entourage stopped and walked for nearly 10 days before they arrived at Jadestone Pass. Today's Jadestone Pass was much different from the one Jingyu saw last time. Before Jadestone Pass closed, it was neatly reorganized. There were countless carriages, horses, and peddlers coming and going. Jingyu was shocked when she saw how prosperous Jadestone Pass was. After entering Jadestone Pass, she saw that the countless houses on the flat ground no longer looked like refugees. It's hard to imagine that Jadestone Pass has changed so much in just over a year. Jingyu stood inside Jadestone Pass and looked at the prosperous scene with astonishment in her eyes. Jadestone Pass's Pass Lord, Hao Yu. Helian Theo stood beside Jingyu with his hands behind his back. He narrowed his eyes at the street in front of him and said, This Hao Yu is really a talent. You know Hao Yu? Jingyu looked at Helian Theo in surprise. Who doesn't know the Pass Lord of Jadestone Pass? Helian Theo raised his eyebrows with interest and said, Back then, he was the top scholar in both the pen and the sword. However, he refused the Emperor's reward and only asked for the position of Pass Lord of Jadestone Pass from the Emperor. This made the Emperor's heart ache. Elder Su he also sighed that it was a pity. Chapter 497. So powerful? Jingyu widened her eyes in astonishment. Hao Yu was actually so powerful. Of course. Helian Theo lightly nodded his head and said, But this Hao Yu is a Jianghu person. If he were to be trapped in the imperial court, who knows how many people he would offend. Now that he has managed the Jade Pass so well, I have to admire his methods. Yes, I admire him very much. Jing Yu nodded her head in agreement. Originally, Jing Yu thought that since she had arrived at the Jade Pass, she would naturally pay a visit to Hao Yu. Who would have thought that she would once again miss him? It was said that this Hao Yu had actually gone to participate in some troublesome martial arts convention. Jing Yu's face was filled with black lines. This was the first time she had seen an official like this. According to the Pass Lord's residence's housekeeper, Hao Yu was practically not in the city at all. He was running all over the world. Jing Yu understood this very well. Hao Yu was clearly the type of person who could not stay idle. If that was not the case, how could he have run to the imperial city to steal and even be labeled as a thief? Jing Yu looked at the housekeeper with snot and tears running down his face and deeply sighed in her heart. Being Hao Yu's housekeeper was truly not easy. Jing Yu and Hellion Theo stayed for a while to buy some things and then continued on their way. After leaving the Jade Pass, they headed towards the northern pastoral. The journey was not peaceful. After leaving the city gates, Jing Yu turned her head to look back at the Jade Pass. She slowly raised her head and looked past the Jade Pass towards the direction of the imperial city. Nuan Yu looked at Jing Yu with eyes full of pity. Usually, eldest miss looked as if nothing had happened, but in reality, she was still sad. Eldest miss, get on the carriage. Nuan Yu went forward to help Jing Yu into the carriage. Along the way, Jing Yu was very quiet. If she wasn't reading, she would be eating, or she would get off the carriage to play with the two gray wolves. It was already June, and the sun was high in the sky. The journey was very noisy. Without ice to cool down, Jing Yu couldn't even hide in the carriage. It took them more than a month to travel from Dongqing Imperial City to the Roman forest. Along the way, they stopped and walked. It was really lively with so many people. Lu Man and Tang Hongyang didn't stop bickering for a moment. Jing Yu was often amused by their teasing. The border between Tokyo and Northern Pastoral was just one more town away. Jing Lang escorted Jing Yu all the way to the town and was about to leave. Where? Jing Yu had just jumped out of the carriage when Jing Lang walked over to welcome her. The blazing sun was somewhat obscured by the dark clouds. Jing Yu's dark purple robes fluttered in the wind. Looking at Jing Lang's soft armor, Jing Yu curved her eyebrows and smiled. She walked over and looked up at Jing Lang with a smile. Big brother. The journey to the Northern Pastoral is long. Big brother can only escort you up to here. You will have to walk the rest of the way by yourself. Jing Lang took a deep breath and pursed his lips as he looked at Jing Yu. Big brother, Jing Yu nodded. Where? Jing Lang hesitated for a moment, then walked closer to Jing Yu and said, Father sent me to escort you for another reason. It has to do with your eyes. Jing Yu's expression became serious when she heard this. She frowned and looked at Jing Lang, waiting for him to continue. Jing Lang put his hand on Jing Yu's shoulder and said, Father told me to never reveal the jade beads around your neck to anyone, and never take them off. I understand. Jing Yu's eyes flashed, and she looked at Jing Lang and asked, Did Father say anything else? Chapter 498. The Holy Family is getting restless. Perhaps some of them have already infiltrated the secular world. You have to be careful, Yue. Jing Lang looked at Jing Yu with a complicated expression and said, There must be a reason why your body was acting strangely after the assassination attempt in the alley. Unless it's an emergency, you must not reveal your abnormal pupils. Jing Yu nodded slowly. Hellion Theo approached from the side. Jing Lang slowly withdrew his hand and took a step back. He looked at Jing Yu with a burning gaze and said, Yue, you must take good care of yourself in the Northern Pastoral. Once I'm done with my military affairs, I will come to the Northern Pastoral to look for you. Don't worry, big brother. I will take good care of myself. Jing Yu solemnly bowed to Jing Lang. She stood on the sand and watched as Jing Lang mounted his horse and galloped away with a group of soldiers. Jing Lang's departure seemed to have taken away all of Jing Yu's thoughts. Now, all that was left were Jing Yu's business helpers. Hellion Theo stood beside Jing Yu. He narrowed his eyes and looked in the direction of Jing Lang's departure. He asked, "What did Jing Lang say to you just now?" "It's just a casual conversation. Why are you asking so many questions?" Jing Yu rolled her eyes at Helly and Theo and turned to get into her carriage. "Ta." Helly and Theo chuckled. He looked at Jing Yu's departing figure and his eyes flashed slightly. The Holy Family? Helly and Theo's lips curled into a cold smile. He calmly got into his carriage and passed through the periphery of the Roman forest, heading straight for the northern pastoral. They left the Tokyo slowly, but this time, the northern pastoral was in a hurry. Jing Yu's 2 gray wolves were indeed a hindrance, but no one dared to say a word. After being together for such a long time, Jing Yu and the 2 gray wolves had a tacit understanding. That kind of intimacy clearly told everyone that these 2 gray wolves were Jing Yu's most precious companions and could not be disrespected in the slightest. Silver Arrow. By the stream, Jing Yu's body was dripping wet. She glared angrily at Silver Arrow, who was struggling in the water. She gritted her teeth as if she wanted to swallow Silver Arrow whole. "You stole my fish again." Bah. Jing Yu bared her fangs and brandished her claws as she pounced on the Silver Arrow. The Silver Arrow let out a strange howl and flopped about in the water, as if it wanted to run ashore. However, Jing Yu grabbed its tail, and it immediately let out a strange cry. "Who told you to be naughty? Who told you to be naughty?" Pa. Jing Yu almost messed up the fur on the Silver Arrow's head. Its wet appearance was simply too funny. "Ha! A drowning dog. Ha!" Jing Yu pointed at the Silver Arrow and laughed wantonly. "Aya!" The Silver Arrow jumped onto the shore and shook its body, causing water droplets to fly everywhere. Jing Yu was drenched in water. Hellion Xiu stood on the hill with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked at Jing Yu, who was standing in the river with her sleeves rolled up. Her entire body was wet, and her hair was wet. His eyes flickered slightly. That woman was so dazzling under the sunlight. That crisp laughter and that moving expression. Hellion Theo slowly smiled. In a trance, another figure seemed to appear in his mind. That person's smile was gentle and moving, but it seemed unreal. As Hellion Theo's thoughts were flying, he suddenly felt something tugging at his clothes. Hellion Theo slowly lowered his head and was slightly stunned when he saw the gray wolf tugging at his clothes. Jing Yu had said that the wolf with white fur between its eyebrows was Silver Arrow. This one didn't, so it was Silver Wind? Hellion Theo slowly raised his head and saw Jing Yu hugging Silver Arrow and playing with the water. She raised her bright and beautiful face and waved her small hands, as if beckoning him over. Hellion Theo's brows slightly raised, and he walked slowly and gracefully towards Jing Yu. Chapter 499. Little Beauty, did you call this young master down to bathe with me? Hellion Xiu's pair of long and narrow eyes raised, the corners of his mouth carried a faint smile. It was clearly such a dull expression, but on Hellion Xiu's face, it caused people to be dazzled and bewildered. "That's right. Come down." Jing Yu grinned and stretched out her small hand. Without any warning, she suddenly pulled Hellion Theo into the stream. Hellion Theo was shocked and he hurriedly stabilized his body, preventing himself from falling into the stream. "Haha." Jing Yu laughed loudly when she saw Hellion Theo's sorry state. "Little Beauty, what are you?" Hellion Xiu gritted his teeth and was about to speak when Jing Yu raised her hand and splashed water over without saying a word. Hellion Xiu's beautiful face was instantly splashed with water, and the words in his mouth came to an abrupt halt. "Ah, a drowned rat." Jing Yu laughed so hard that she couldn't stand up. Hellion Theo couldn't stand it anymore and splashed water on Jing Yu. When the Silver Arrow saw that Jing Yu was being bullied, he jumped into the stream without a word. He splashed with all his strength, causing Jing Yu and Hellion Theo to be drenched in water. That afternoon, the laughter that echoed through the forest didn't dissipate for a long time. In the forest, Jing Yu was drying her clothes under the sun while wringing her outer clothes. The sound of dripping water made Jing Yu raise her eyebrows and smile. She turned to look at Hellion Theo, who was hanging his clothes, and said with a smile, "Hellion Theo, you look better without your clothes." Hellion Theo calmly raised his eyebrows and looked at Jing Yu. He laughed loudly and said, "Little Beauty, Are you seducing this young master? Tise. Jing rolled her eyes impolitely. Helian Xiu's mouth twitched when he saw her disdainful expression. Jingyu sat on a rock and looked at the endless blue sky while sighing silently. Helian Theo walked over and sat beside Jingyu. He looked at Jingyu's flawless face and said with a smile, "What's wrong? Are you starting to miss home now?" Jingyu glanced at Helian Theo and asked, "Why are you in such a hurry to return to the northern pastoral imperial city? Why did you slow down when you were about to arrive?" "Nothing." Helian Theo casually turned his head and said, "I just want you to see more of the northern pastoral." "Is the northern pastoral better than the Tokyo?" "It is indeed very different." Jingyu grinned and said, "The people of the northern pastoral are very forthright. The land is vast, but the population is small. Most of them are gathered in the same city. It feels very different." Jingyu saw the scenery of the northern pastoral along the way. From the Tokyo to the north, she could see vast fields and mountains, but not many trees. The more she walked, the more she could see. The city walls did not look like a barbarian land, but they did not look like a Tokyo either. The buildings were built with flying roofs and tiles. It was a unique style. The men and women were very warm to the guests. The women were not shy like the southern people. Instead, they were bold and wild. Looking at the women, Jingyu thought of the beautiful snake that Helian Theo gave to Xiao Yi during the Tokyo festival. Although the woman was beautiful, she was not scheming. Other than the ability to charm men, she was not good at anything else. It was said that she was favored for less than 3 months before her eyes were dug out. No one knew if she was dead or alive. Jingyu only sighed at this news and did not say anything. Chapter 500. This is the outskirts of the northern pastoral imperial city. You will see more people and things as you walk further in, Helian Theo said with a slight smile. "Okay, I'm looking forward to it," Jingyu replied with a raised eyebrow. Everyone rested for a long time. By the time Jingyu and Helian Theo's clothes were dry, the sky had turned dark. However, they saw that Helian Theo was not in a hurry to leave. Since Helian Theo was not in a hurry, Jingyu was naturally not in a hurry either. In the evening, Jingyu changed into a tight-fitting black outfit. She carried a bow and arrows on her back and went hunting with Silver Arrow and Silver Wind. "Boss, you're going hunting?" Xiao Wenshi had just washed his horse when he saw Jingyu counting arrows. He was slightly taken aback and asked, "Yes, I'm going to hunt some game for everyone." Jingyu raised her head and smiled at Xiao Wenshi. "Boss, let me go," Xiao Wenshi volunteered as he walked towards Jingyu. "No need, I have Silver Arrow and Silver Wind." Jingyu put the arrows on her back and turned to look at the 2 gray wolves who were standing up and shaking their bodies. "Boss, Big Brother is just curious about how you command wolves to hunt. He wants to go with you and see." Fourth brother, Mao Yi, came over with a laugh and said to Jingyu. Xiao Wenshi immediately glared at Mao Yi and scratched his head awkwardly. "If Big Brother Xiao wants to see it, you can come with me," Jingyu said with a smile. "Really? Boss, I want to see it too." Mao Yi's eyes lit up and he immediately looked at Jingyu excitedly. "Fourth brother." Xiao Wenshi immediately frowned and glared at Mao Yi. "It's fine. If you brothers want to see it, let's go together. We might be able to hunt a lot of game." Jingyu squatted down, stroked Yin Jian and Yin Feng's heads, and smiled at Mao Yi with arched eyebrows. Du Peng and the others who were listening at the side were also very moved. After a moment of kindness, they finally left Old 5 and Old 6 behind, while the other 4 left with Jingyu. "Your Highness, this..." Helian Theo's bodyguard, Yao Fei, had been following Helian Theo the entire time. When he saw the commotion on Jingyu's side, he frowned slightly and turned to look at Helian Theo. "It's fine. Let her be." Helian Theo withdrew his gaze from Jingyu and turned to walk towards the carriage. Looking into the depths of the forest, he narrowed his eyes and asked, "What's the situation?" "Everything is ready." Yao Fei nodded. "However, this subordinate has just received a piece of news." "What is it?" Helian Theo raised his hand and plucked a leaf to play with as he asked casually. "Tokyo, the 9th Emperors, Shaochen, is chasing after us. Yao Fei frowned slightly and whispered to Helian Xiu. Hearing this, Helian Xiu, who was playing with the leaf between his fingers, paused for a moment. Immediately after, he landed lightly on the ground. The corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile as he said, "In the end, he still came." "Your Highness, what should we do now?" Yao Fei frowned slightly and asked Helian Theo. "There's no need to do anything." Helian Theo stood with his hands behind his back, a deep light flashing in the depths of his eyes. Jing Yu led Xiao Wenshi and the others to search among the trees. Mao Yi couldn't help but feel itchy and hunted a pheasant in the process, making him happy for a long time. Jing Yu wandered through the forest as if she was taking a stroll. Yin Jian and Yin Feng had already disappeared. "Boss, can we really find prey if we continue to search like this?" Du Peng looked at Jing Yu as if she was playing and didn't look like she was hunting at all. He was a little puzzled. Chapter 501. Of course I found it. Jing Yu answered calmly and looked around. The second brother, Su Teng, was also puzzled. He looked at Du Peng and continued to follow Jing Yu. "Boss, how can you make this wolf so obedient?" Since they had nothing to do, Xiao Wenshi quickly walked up to Jing Yu and asked. Since Xiao Wenshi had asked this question, Su Teng, Mao Yi, and the others were immediately interested. They all stretched their ears to listen. "I listen to it so it naturally listens to me." Jing Yu smiled and said, "Wolves also have a wolf's personality. Don't treat them like animals. Compared to humans, sometimes I prefer wild animals." Xiao Wenshi and the others were stunned. It was also at this moment that a soft but clear wolf cry rang out. Jing Yu's eyes immediately lit up and she said with a smile, "Listen, Yin Jian is calling me." After saying that, Jing Yu turned around and ran towards the source of the sound. Xiao Wenshi, Du Peng, and the others naturally did not delay and ran together with Jing Yu. When they were about to approach, they saw from afar that two gray wolves had surrounded a huge wild boar and were in a deadlock. "Damn, this adult wild boar is not easy to deal with." Mao Yi stared with wide eyes at Silver Arrow's battle. "Fall back." Jing Yu narrowed her eyes and decisively told everyone to fall back. "Boss, are we not going to help?" Xiao Wenshi asked with some confusion. "There's no need." Jing Yu shook her head slightly. She brought everyone back a little distance before taking down the bow on her back. Everyone looked at each other when they saw Jing Yu's actions. Jing Yu skillfully took down the longbow and pulled out the sharp arrow. She carefully moved behind the tree trunk. The trees in the forest were her cover. Jing Yu focused all her attention on the battle that had already begun. She slowly pulled the arrow in her hand and hid in the darkness to watch the battle not far away. At that moment, Jing Yu seemed to not exist. Her breathing and her heartbeat moved with the wind and the rustling of the leaves. Xiao Wenshi, Mao Yi, and the others' breathing suddenly stagnated. They looked at the girl who was standing naturally behind the tree trunk with fear. At this moment, they felt a cold and strong murderous intent from her slender fingers and the arrow she was pulling. They clearly couldn't feel the murderous intent, but they seemed to feel it. That kind of fear that rose from the bottom of their hearts and a cold feeling crept up their backs, causing Xiao Wenshi and the others to freeze in place. They didn't even dare to move at all. Their eyes were fixed on the arrow in Jing Yu's hand. The cooperation between the silver arrow and the silver wind was incomparable. They forced the wild boar to be unable to move, but they didn't bite it. One surrounded the other and one attacked. It was truly a marvelous battle. Jing Yu wasn't anxious at all and stood quietly behind the tree. After a short while, the wild boar was finally driven crazy. It attacked the silver arrow and the silver wind randomly. The moment the silver arrow jumped up, it left an excellent attacking position for Jing Yu. Obviously, Jing Yu took advantage of this moment and the arrow in her hand suddenly flew out under the horrified gazes of Xiao Wenshi and the others. The sharp arrow brought with it a chill and easily shot into the wild boar's throat. It pierced through and killed it in one blow. "Oh yeah! Success!" Jing Yu cheered and jumped out of the bushes. "Awoo!" The silver arrow and the silver wind also jumped up happily and circled around Jing Yu. Chapter 502. I know, I know. Jing Yu rubbed the two wolves' heads and said with a smile, "There will be plenty of meat for you too." Xiao Wenshi watched as Jing Yu squatted down and pressed down on the fallen wild boar. She grabbed the tail of the arrow and pulled it out cleanly, causing blood to spurt out. Xiao Wenshi and the others were stunned and couldn't believe their eyes. "Brothers, what's wrong?" Jing Yu really wanted to find some thick tree trunks to carry the wild boar back, but she saw Xiao Wenshi and the others' stunned expressions and asked doubtfully. That's it?" Mao Yi looked at the wild boar on the ground and asked with his eyes wide open. "What else could it be?" Jing Yu spread out her hands. Boss is so powerful. Her archery skills are worthy of being called a godly archer." Du Peng's eyes sparkled and he couldn't help but praise. "What are you talking about?" Jing Yu smiled and said, "After staying in the forest for so long, this archery skill naturally developed." "I heard that boss grew up in the Roman forest?" Su Xingting looked up at Jing Yu and asked. Jing Yu looked around for thick tree trunks and nodded lightly when she heard the question. "Those days were very happy. I could do whatever I wanted without any worries. Other than having no money, everything was good." Jing Yu picked up a thick tree trunk and said with a smile, "I choose you." After saying that, she pulled out a black dagger and was about to cut off the tree trunk, but she paused when she saw the dagger. "A black dagger? He gave it to her, boss, it's tied up?" Du Peng's voice came. Jing Yu lowered her eyes and responded faintly. She neatly cut the tree trunk in her hands and let Xiao Wenshi and Mao Yi carry it back to where they came from. The two gray wolves received Jing Yu's praise and made a great contribution. They walked in front with their heads held high, making Xiao Wenshi and the others laugh. He thought that they hadn't gone far, but it turned out that it was quite a distance back. The sky was getting dark, so their conversation wasn't boring. Jing Yu listened with a smile and interjected from time to time. Just as they were about to reach their destination, the two gray wolves leading the way suddenly stopped. Their ears perked up and their sharp eyes scanned the surroundings. Jing Yu was startled. The smile on her face disappeared and she looked around. "Why?" Just as Mao Yi was about to ask why they stopped, he suddenly saw a black shadow appear in the dense forest. Their light footsteps stepped on the ground, and they surrounded them from all directions. Jing Yu's expression turned solemn as she stared coldly at the men in black. However, when the men in black saw Jing Yu's group, they seemed to be slightly stunned. Then, under the strange gazes of Jing Yu's group, the men in black actually bypassed Jing Yu's group and walked straight ahead. Mao Yi's vigilance had just been raised, but when he saw the men in black actually walk away, he was stunned. What was going on? "They aren't coming for us." Su Xingting's hand that was tightly holding the long sword loosened slightly as he slowly exhaled. "Those men in black are going in the direction of Heli and Theo." Jing Yu's expression didn't relax. Instead, it became serious. She looked in the direction that the men in black left and narrowed her eyes. Suddenly, as if she had thought of something, her eyes widened and she said coldly, "Go back quickly." Xiao Wenshi and the rest felt their hearts skip a beat. They hurriedly put away their playful thoughts and ran towards Helian Shio's location with grave expressions. In order to arrive in time, they naturally left behind the mountain boar. When Jing Yu rushed over from afar, all she heard was the clashing of swords and sabers, as well as the screams of women. Chapter 503. Jing Yu's guess was right. The men in black were indeed here for Heli and Theo. The scene was a mess, and when Jing Yu and Xiao Wenshi arrived, the fight had already begun. The men in black were ruthless, and each of them charged towards Heli and Theo in a frenzy. Obviously, their target this time was Heli and Theo's life. Silver arrow, silver wind. Go. Jing Yu coldly pulled out her dagger and shouted. With this shout, the two gray wolves pounced towards the black-clothed man beside Helian Shio with the force of lightning. A woo! That huge body bit off the neck of one of the men in black. Helian Theo, who was holding his sword, had a look of fear in his eyes. This was the first time that Helian Theo had seen Jing Yu command her gray wolves to kill someone. It was also the first time that Helian Theo had seen Jing Yu kill someone. The woman in black, with a long bow on her back, was nimble and agile. The dagger in her hand was a sharp reaper, and as long as the dagger was out, a life would be taken. "Awoo!" Yin Feng cried out in pain. Jing Yu's heart trembled, and she quickly dodged to the side. Seeing that Yin Feng's leg had been cut, and the bright red blood, Jing Yu's eyes flashed with anger. She quickly pulled out her bow, and unceremoniously shot arrows at the men in black. The ice-cold arrows were filled with endless killing intent, and none of them missed. The men in black looked at Jing Yu in fear. With the addition of Xiao Wenshi and the rest, the situation instantly changed. The leader of the men in black saw that the situation was not right, and immediately gave the order to retreat. Retreat! Before they left, the black-clothed man glanced deeply at Jing Yu before leading the other black-clothed men away like a receding tide. Hellion Theo stopped Yao Fei and wanted to continue chasing. Since the assassination had been arranged, who knew if there would be more? Naturally, Hellion Theo did not dare to give chase. Jing Yu watched the men in black leave, and her eyes turned cold. She turned around and saw Yin Feng lying on the ground, whimpering, with silver arrows circling him. "Yin Feng." Jing Yu squatted beside Yin Feng and checked his injuries. "Medicine." Hellion Theo's robes were stained with blood. He walked to Jing Yu's side and handed her some medicine. Jing Yu raised her head and looked at Hellion Theo. She raised her hand and took the medicine. Fortunately, Yin Feng's injuries were not deep and should not be too serious. However, the injury to his leg was really troublesome. After tidying up the scene, a few guards died protecting Hellion Theo. Yao Fei directed the crowd to bury them. Fortunately, most of them did not die. After tidying up, they sat down. Jing Yu also bandaged Yin Feng's wounds. Xiao Wenshi and the rest went to carry the wild boar that was abandoned on the road back. "What happened just now?" Jing Yu walked to Hellion Theo's side and asked, "Why was there an assassination attempt? Other than my good brother, who else would be so impatient to take my life?" Hellion Theo coldly curled the corner of his lips and said, "In the end, I miscalculated. I thought that I would be able to avoid it by changing my route. I didn't expect my brother's eyes and ears to be so sharp. He actually found me." "Brother?" Jing Yu frowned slightly. She had not heard much about the Northern Pastoral, so she really did not know who this brother Hellion Theo was talking about was. The Northern Pastoral country only has 3 princes now. The first prince, Hellion Hua, is my brother. The 5th prince is me. The 11th prince, Hellion Yi, has just turned 1 year old. The remaining princes are all princesses. Hellion Theo calmly said, "My brother was originally the Northern Pastoral's publicly acknowledged candidate for the crown prince. I did not expect to return to the country at such a critical time." Chapter 504. I understand now. Since Hellion Theo explained it so clearly, Jing Yu immediately understood. She clapped her hands and said, "Hellion Hua is afraid that you will steal his throne, so he wants to kill you?" Hellion Theo raised his eyebrows slightly and did not reply. He said coldly, "If I wanted his throne, I wouldn't have gone to the Tokyo as a hostage." "What a joke." Jing Yu frowned and said, "This Hellion Hua is treating you as an opponent." "Boring." Hellion Theo smiled indifferently and turned to look at Jing Yu. He smiled and said, "However, you have made me see you in a new light today. I didn't expect that the beauty I took a liking to would have such powerful martial arts. You have really broadened my horizons. I'll take you to the Northern Pastoral now. I believe that your days in the Northern Pastoral will be much more interesting." "But this lady has become your free bodyguard." Jing Yu glared at Hellion Theo angrily. "Ha!" Hellion Theo laughed heartily. His eyes were filled with joy. This assassination attempt came and went quickly. When it was late at night, after arranging for the night guards, they went to rest. There were no more assassinations on the way to the imperial city of the Northern Pastoral. However, Hellion Theo did not forget to be vigilant, so the journey was smooth. "You mean a woman who can command wild beasts?" In the imperial palace of the Northern Pastoral, the cold voice of a man hidden in the shadows rang out. "Yes." A man in black knelt on the ground and replied respectfully. Command wild beasts, woman. The man seemed to be thinking. He pursed his lips and said, Go and find out who this woman is and why she is by Hellion Theo's side. The night was silent. The man in luxurious clothes slowly walked away. The northern pastoral imperial city was undoubtedly magnificent. It was a magnificent building with high eaves and black tiles. At the gate of the northern pastoral imperial city, Jingyu sat in a carriage. She lifted a corner of the curtain and looked out. Her eyes were filled with curiosity. Most of the men in the northern pastoral looked mighty and strong. The woman, on the other hand, was dressed boldly. She was tall and slender, and her eyebrows were slightly higher. She looked quite unique. Oldest miss, that girl's belly is exposed. Nuanyu had been chattering nonstop since she entered the city. Looking at the women's clothes, she cried out in horror. What a nice waist. Jingyu stared at the woman who walked past with her hips swaying. Her figure was simply amazing. Northern pastoral women had dark skin and weren't as fair as Tokyo women, but in Jingyu's eyes, they were as beautiful as fairies. Look at those breasts. Look at those waists. If this was in the modern world, it would make people's blood boil. Boss, we're here. Just as Jingyu was fantasizing, Xiao Wenshi's voice came from outside. Jingyu and Nuanyu got off the carriage. They saw a simple and unique house. Hellion Theo was standing in front of the carriage with his hands behind his back. This is the house I bought for you in advance. You can live here. Hellion Theo looked at Jingyu and said, Then where will you live? Jingyu was slightly surprised and asked in confusion. This prince will naturally live in the palace. Hellion Theo's lips curved into a wicked smile and said, If you are willing to be this prince's princess, you can also live in the palace with me. Thank you. It's better if you find someone else to be your princess. Jingyu rolled her eyes and ordered everyone to pack up and enter the courtyard. Just as she was about to enter the courtyard, she saw Hellion Theo still standing there. She immediately glared at him and asked, What are you still doing here? Let's go. Chapter 505. Hellion Theo's face darkened. He, the dignified fifth prince of the northern pastoral, was actually chased away by someone. Cough cough. Thank you, fifth prince, for your reward. I will send the money over in a few days. Jingyu put on an act as she bowed to Hellion Theo. Who cares about your lousy money? Hellion Theo angrily flicked his sleeves, turned around, and returned to the carriage, heading towards the palace. Jingyu watched Hellion Theo leave before she ran into the courtyard with a smile. She was very satisfied with the layout of the courtyard. Although it wasn't as grand as the Prime Minister's residence, this courtyard won in terms of elegance. Jingyu was very satisfied. She directed everyone to find themselves a room and temporarily settled down here. Hellion Theo must have already found someone to clean up the place. Everything was very clean and tidy. However, Jingyu had a problem. When she slept in the room, no matter how others cleaned it, she would clean it up herself. Nuanyu was very puzzled by this, but she still followed Jingyu to clean it up. Eldest miss, where should I put this? Nuanyu held the candlestick in her hand and asked Jingyu, who was wiping the windowsill. Put it over there. Be careful. Jingyu looked around and pointed to an empty space. This was the scene that Lu Man saw when she walked in. Seeing the two busy people, she asked doubtfully, Boss, did no one clean your room? It's already been cleaned. I'll just wipe it again. Jingyu smiled and said, Are you all done tidying up? Then let's go out and see if there are any business opportunities in the northern pastoral. Let's all go out and play separately. Eat whatever you want and drink whatever you want. Okay, Lu Man replied with a smile in her eyes. She turned around and passed on Jingyu's message. Everyone was already itching to go, so they naturally swarmed out of the house and headed towards the northern pastoral street. After Jingyu finished tidying up, she walked into the house and saw Du Peng sitting on the stone table. She was slightly taken aback and asked curiously, Third brother Du, why don't you go to the street? Big brother asked me to protect boss. It won't do if boss doesn't have a decent bodyguard by her side. Du Peng stood up and bowed slightly to Jingyu. Brother Xiao is really... Jingyu felt warmth in her heart, but she shook her head helplessly. Since that's the case, third brother Du, let's go out for a walk. Jingyu looked up at Du Peng and said, I couldn't see it clearly in the carriage, but I'm very curious about what it looks like outside the northern pastoral. Yes, please, boss. Du Peng nodded in response. He watched as Jingyu freshened up and left the courtyard together. There was still some distance from the side courtyard to the street. They had just arrived at the northern pastoral and hadn't bought anything yet. Naturally, they didn't have a carriage, so they could only walk. This house is really beautiful. As they walked towards the center of the market, they saw all kinds of side courtyards. There were more and more people, and naturally, there were countless restaurants and inns. There were even more small shops. The dazzling array of jewelry made Jingyu dizzy. Jingyu walked on the street with Nuanyu and Du Peng. Many people cast sidelong glances at them. Obviously, Jingyu and her group weren't wearing the clothes of the northern pastoral. In addition, Jingyu and Nuanyu's fair skin attracted the attention of the men and the jealousy of the women. Du Peng, on the other hand, had a sturdy body and a handsome face, which made the women's hearts beat faster. Along the way, they frequently threw flirtatious glances at Du Peng, which made Du Peng not dare to raise his head. Jingyu couldn't help but laugh at the side. These brothers were all so honest. Chapter 506. Welcome, this restaurant's name is quite good. Jingyu and the others had been walking for a long time, so they were a little tired and hungry. Seeing the 3 words written in such a serious manner, Jingyu's interest was piqued. She walked in with Du Peng and Nuanyu. The layout of the restaurant wasn't very novel, but there was an endless stream of people in the restaurant. It was very lively. Jingyu and the others found a seat by the window and sat down. They looked at the menu and casually ordered a few dishes before looking around. Boss, this restaurant looks pretty good. Although it's not as special as our restaurant, it's still quite good on our way here. Du Peng also looked around and raised his eyebrows slightly as he spoke to Jingyu. It's indeed not bad, Jingyu nodded and said, but I wonder how the northern pastoral dishes taste like. I just casually looked around and found that all the dishes on the table are fiery red chili. Du Peng pointed at the table next to them, which was filled with fiery red chili oil, and said, Boss, look, there are only 1 or 2 dishes on the table that are bland. The rest are all spicy. Northern Pastoral likes wine and spicy food. It seems like the rumors are true. Jingyu nodded in agreement. She had clearly noticed this as well. Dear guests, your dishes are here. The waiter's voice could be heard, and dishes were served one after another. Jingyu stared at the spicy dishes in shock and swallowed hard. It was probably because she had been raised to be picky in Dongqing that she didn't eat spicy food. Jingyu and Du Peng stared at each other in bewilderment. They tentatively picked up their chopsticks, wanting to try the northern herder dishes. Seeing a very familiar dish, Jingyu doubtfully picked up a piece of something hard. She tilted her head to the side and asked the waiter, Waiter, what is this dish? This is mala tofu. Many customers like this tofu very much. The waiter replied with a smile. This? Tofu? Jingyu's face stiffened as she poked the hard tofu. Was this really tofu? Jingyu picked up a piece of tofu and put it in her mouth. The first thing she felt was that it was spicy. The second thing she felt was that this tofu was too astringent. How was it as tender as white tofu? Is this tofu only available in your shop? Or do all the tofu in the restaurants look like this? Jingyu tilted her head and asked the waiter. Dear customer, all the tofu in the northern pastoral is like this. Could it be that you've never eaten tofu before? The waiter was a little confused and looked at Jingyu with a puzzled expression. Cough, cough, cough. It's all right now. Jingyu coughed twice and waved to the waiter, saying, You can leave, we will have a good taste of your restaurant's delicacies. The waiter responded happily and turned to leave. Miss, this dish is too spicy. Nuanyu had only eaten a little bit of the dish and could only stare at the river water. Her small mouth was red from the spiciness. It's too spicy. Du Peng also couldn't stand the spiciness. Jingyu didn't even dare to eat it. I'm very curious about this tofu right now. Jing Yu poked the tofu with her chopsticks and her eyes were filled with curiosity. Such a poor method of making tofu. The tofu made was inedible, but it was loved by so many people. If this tofu could be made to be as white and tender as it was in the modern world, wouldn't it be a business opportunity? We also found out that in half a month, 4th Princess Helian Ro will be holding an arena in the East Market. She will be holding a martial arts competition to find a husband. 4th Princess? Helian Ro? Martial arts competition to find a husband? Jing Yu's eyes widened. She thought that martial arts competitions to find a husband only existed in TV shows. She didn't expect that they really existed in ancient times. Yes, this 4th princess is the favorite daughter of the Northern Pastoral Emperor. It is said that she is good at both civil and martial arts. 10 years ago, she commanded the 3 armies to guard the Northern Pastoral Western region. No one dared to offend the Northern Pastoral again. She is truly a heroine, Xiao Wenshi said, his eyes full of admiration. A woman commands the 3 armies? Northern Pastoral women can actually join the army? Jing Yu's eyes widened. She was obviously shocked. She finally remembered why Helian Theo had said so casually that if you were the emperor, you would be the emperor. Chapter 508. Yes, in the Northern Pastoral's national policy, it is advocated that women can enter the government and join the army as generals. Because of this, the Northern Pastoral has grown very quickly in the past few years. The soldiers are strong and the horses are strong. Anyone who is capable in both literature and martial arts is favored by the emperor. The strong are respected. When Xiao Wenshi finished speaking, Jing Yu's heart calmed down. A glint flashed across her eyes. Perhaps this was an opportunity for her. Everyone had something they wanted to get involved in, and Jing Yu allowed them to do it without any worries. After all, the Tokyo industry was their most solid backing. She wasn't afraid of losing money, but she was afraid that they wouldn't dare to do it. With Jing Yu's encouragement, Tang Hongyang and Lu Man naturally couldn't wait any longer. Jing Yu asked Xiao Wenshi to buy a few servants, cooks, grooms, and so on. Then she went to buy the things she needed. After 3 to 4 days, Jing Yu had finally settled down in the Northern Pastoral. Helian Theo had disappeared after returning. Jing Yu naturally didn't want to see him again. However, she thought that since he had given her a courtyard to live in, she should return the money, right? However, she didn't know where to find him, so she didn't think too much about it. This person appeared and disappeared mysteriously. When the time was right, he would appear. Jing Yu had settled down. On the 5th day after Jing Yu arrived at the Northern Pastoral Imperial City, 3 fine horses appeared at the entrance of the Northern Pastoral Imperial City. Mistress, we have arrived at the Northern Pastoral Imperial City. Who else could it be but Xing Yi's face under the scorching sun? Xiao Chen was dressed in black as usual. His face was filled with deep exhaustion and haggard, and there was a stubble on his chin. He had been rushing day and night for more than a month and finally caught up. Xiao Chen looked at the Northern Pastoral Imperial City in a daze. Speaking of which, he hadn't been to Northern Pastoral for many years. Jiao Xiao, if you go to the Northern Pastoral, you must help me visit my mother, okay? When he was young, Helian Theo would say this every time he went out to the Northern Pastoral. Until one day he brought back bad news, and since then he had never heard this sentence again. Now, Xiao Chen was standing in front of the Northern Pastoral Imperial City gates. He vaguely heard someone call him Xiao Jiao again. Master? Sheng Yi looked at the motionless Xiao Chen and called out in confusion. Let's go. Xiao Chen responded indifferently and led Ma Chao into the Imperial City. Time passed quietly. Lu Man and Tang Hongyang were so busy that their feet didn't touch the ground. Jing Yu naturally didn't stay idle either. She went to restaurants to discuss business. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Jing Yu's spending speed was simply amazing. If she didn't earn money soon, she might become a pauper. Money wasn't everything, but it was impossible to do anything without money. What is this? Jingyu saw a box of clothes and accessories in the main hall when she woke up early in the morning. She was slightly surprised and turned to ask the servant who brought the things. His Highness the Fifth Prince said that this is for Miss Jingyu. The servant smiled ambiguously at Jingyu and said, His Highness the Fifth Prince said that when in Rome, Miss Jingyu should do as the Romans do. These are all northern pastoral clothes for Miss Jingyu to change into. His Highness the Fifth Prince's carriage will be coming to pick Miss Jingyu up in a bit. Hellion Theo is coming? Jingyu suddenly raised her hand and interrupted the servant's words. She stared at the servant and asked with wide eyes, Wait? Hellion Theo is coming? The servant seemed to be startled by Jingyu directly calling out Hellion Theo's name. However, he quickly restrained his expression and said with a smile, Yes, His Highness the Fifth Prince will be coming to pick Miss Jingyu up. We will go watch the fourth princess's joust for a spouse. Chapter 509. I'm not interested. I'm not going. Jingyu rolled her eyes and threw the clothes in her hands into the box. Missing you? The servant looked at Jingyu's appearance and became anxious. He quickly said, It's His Highness the Fifth Prince who came to pick you up. I know. Jingyu spread her hands and said, I don't want to go. I don't want to go no matter who is picking me up. But the servant was very anxious. He seemed to want to persuade Jingyu, but he didn't know what to say. The Fifth Prince had personally come to pick her up, but Jingyu was so disdainful. This made the servant very puzzled. Just as the servant was at a loss, a voice suddenly interrupted. Little beauty, this prince personally came to invite you, but you don't give me any face? A clear and unique voice sounded. The servant looked at Hellion Theo, who was standing in front of the hall with his hands behind his back, and widened his eyes. He quickly knelt down and said, Your Highness the Fifth Prince. Get up. Hellion Xiao glanced at the manservant indifferently and turned his head to look at Jingyu. His eyes were tinged with traces of a smile. Hellion Theo, this lady didn't invite you in, did she? Jingyu looked at Hellion Theo with a look of disdain and shouted. The door wasn't closed. I walked in myself. Hellion Theo smiled as he walked towards Jingyu. He looked at the clothes and said, What? You don't like this young master's taste? This young master carefully selected these for you. What? I'm getting goosebumps all over. Jingyu trembled violently. She stared at Hellion Theo and said, Don't think that I can't bear to beat you just because you're pretty. Take these clothes away. If I want to wear clothes, can't I buy them myself? Little beauty, I'm going to be sad if you don't appreciate it. Hellion Theo raised his hand and lifted Jingyu's chin. He narrowed his eyes and said, This is my territory now. Hellion Theo, are you threatening me? Jingyu glared at Hellion Theo with disdain. I wouldn't dare. Hellion Theo quickly raised his hand, looking like he was ready to do anything. I'm not interested in that martial arts competition. I don't want to go. Jingyu yawned and said, If I have the time, I might as well go back to sleep. How about you accompany me? Hellion Theo stared at Jingyu and said, If you're willing to go with me, I'll give you a way to make money. I heard that your people are making a batch of silk recently. If I introduce you to the imperial concubines in the palace, then you will become a northern pastoral imperial merchant in the future. Are you serious? Jingyu, who had a sleepy look on her face just now, immediately widened her eyes when she heard Hellion Xiao's words. She looked at Jingyu excitedly and asked, That will depend on your performance. Hellion Theo's lips curled and a calculating light flashed in his eyes. He proudly straightened his body and looked at Jingyu with a do as you see fit expression. I'm just going with you to watch the martial arts competition. Simple. Jingyu laughed and waved her hand. Monyu, help me dress up. We can't lose face for Hellion Fifth Highness. Hellion Theo won completely. To deal with Jingyu, he had to attack her heart. If he used force, it would only backfire. Obviously, Hellion Theo's move was correct. Even if Jingyu knew that this was Hellion Theo's trick, she was willing to accept it. Jingyu went into the room to dress up while Hellion Theo walked around outside the courtyard. Chapter 510. Unexpectedly, in just half a month, Jingyu had turned the courtyard into such a desolate place. Now it was filled with people. Hellion Theo looked at the grass and trees in the courtyard and smiled faintly. The door behind him opened and Hellion Xiu turned his head when he heard the sound. At the entrance of the corridor, Jingyu stood in front of Hellion Xiu, dressed in a red and white robe. Her black hair was tied up in a simple bun, and the hem of her robe was red. The jewelry on her wrist was simple and exquisite. The jades on her body were very moving. Jingyu's skin was fair and white, which made her look particularly beautiful in her robe. She raised her eyebrows and held a veil in her hand. She blinked at Hellion Theo and asked, "Why are you staring at me? I've never seen you before." Clothes make the man, just as a horse makes the saddle. Hellion Theo laughed loudly. Jingyu glared at him angrily. "Are we still leaving?" Jingyu glared at Hellion Theo. "Of course we're leaving." Hellion Theo reached out his hand to Jingyu. Jingyu rolled her eyes at Hellion Theo and turned to walk towards the door. Hellion Theo helplessly withdrew his hand. Jingyu was the only one who didn't give him any face. The East Market entrance was the venue for today's competition. By the time Hellion Xiu and Jingyu arrived, the place was already packed with people. Shouts could be heard incessantly, and those men were all eager to give it a try. Hellion Theo's carriage stopped in front of the building. Everyone looked over. Jingyu and Hellion Theo were arguing inside the carriage. "I want to wear it." Jingyu tugged at the veil in her hand and tried to cover herself. Hellion Theo didn't let her. "No one in the Northern Pastoral knows you. Why do you still want to wear this veil?" Hellion Theo frowned. "It's so that no one will ever know me." Jingyu raised her hand and put on the veil to cover her face. She said unhappily, "It's too dangerous to be around people like you. In order to ensure my safety in the future, I must wear this veil." Hellion Theo couldn't argue with Jingyu, so he let her be. He lifted the curtain and stepped out of the carriage. Jingyu was about to jump down, but Hellion Theo quickly grabbed her hand. Jingyu frowned and glared at Hellion Theo and pulled her hand. Jingyu's brows furrowed and glared at him. Jingyu looked like she wanted to jump down, but Hellion Theo quickly grabbed her hand. Jing frowned and glared at Hellion Theo and pulled her hand. "Is that His Highness the Fifth Prince?" "Yes." "Why did His Highness bring a woman here?" "I don't know. Could that woman be His Highness' new favorite? Haven't you heard? His Highness is getting married. I think that woman is most likely the future wife of a prince." "It can't be." "Let me see what kind of woman she is." The series of actions of Hellion Xiu and Jingyu in front of the building was seen by the commoners outside, and immediately caused a small disturbance. However, Jingyu and Hellion Xiu had already walked into the building. From the top of the tall building, they could clearly see the martial arts arena built in the middle. Hellion Xiu brought Jingyu up to the second floor. From afar, he could see the man sitting on the seat. He was wearing an azure brocade robe with golden totems embroidered on it. It was exceptionally dazzling and eye-catching. At this moment, under the reminder of the guard beside him, he turned his head and looked over. "Eldest Imperial Brother." Hellion Xiu cupped his hands towards the man and addressed him as Imperial Brother. Jingyu stole a glance at this person. He was really too different from Hellion Theo. She thought that Hellion Theo's relatives were all beauties, but the difference between them was like the difference between heaven and earth. At first glance, Hellion Hua had the appearance of a mighty warrior. His appearance was also rigid and did not have any sense of beauty. This made the curious Jingyu greatly disappointed. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.